to the Pat Life Podcast. As always, I'm Patrick, and today is going to be a fun one. I'm really excited about this one. I've been thinking about it since last week when I was speaking with our man here, Chance. Chance was with us. It got cut short on my end, but he was kind enough not only to come back, but come back ready to go with our other friend here, the one and only Dylan Saccoccio. Now, did I say that right? I've been thinking about that for like 5 minutes before we started.
Yeah,
I used to get it wrong all the time.
yeah, you said it wrong, but you know what? I just realized I was watching both of your podcasts the other day. Chance, is your name? Have you not been correcting me when I say your name? It's Garton.
I just like when people say Garton because it sounds cooler. But my family says Garton.
Is it
Garton
French?
is like, it just sounds more spiffy.
Is it French?
No, it's Welsh.
Okay.
I don't even know. My ancestors with that name came in with William the Conqueror.
Well, interestingly enough, garitus is the chattering in Latin. So gar is related to speaking, and the B, the G became interchangeable with the B, and so that's where you get bar, and that's the root of bard. And then you got ton, which is toan, which is on, the essence, he who is. As Plato wrote, tell me of the God On, who was, is, and will be. So you got the chattering of On in your word. In your name.
I like it. I have a chart that I've been
Don't mind me,
referencing.
that's just the wine talking.
It's okay.
Good.
It's we're language of the bards. We're about that. I actually have a cool chart that shows it's like a cipher of all the letters that are interchangeable for each other as languages changed throughout time. Pretty handy.
Very cool.
Dude, this is why I'm excited, man. Because as I was saying before, you came on, Dylan. Being that I am newer to the things that we were talking about, intertwining all this stuff, I like that you guys will be able to take things maybe a little bit further into the conversation, just extrapolate off one another to really make this fun and exciting. I mean, I will say through reading your books, which we will get into, I now know how to tell someone to fuck off in like 15 languages, which I'm really stoked about. Oh, I was gonna say it's like the old days when you had like the Pokemon cards. I'm like, which one?
Oh yeah, dude.
Which one you feeling, dude?
Right. So what do you think of the third one? You like how it's nice and big and got all the pictures and shit in it?
So, well, we can get in. Let's dive in. I love that there's the pictures, man, because a lot of the times for someone like myself, there's so much information that's intertwined. Having the visuals to see the statues and the things that are already out there for everyone else, who even the ones who aren't deep diving into what we're doing, but are on vacation, going to these monuments, going to these landmark spots to see these things, to have the visual makes it so much more easier to digest, at least from my opinion, because it is heavy material. There's no question about it, but it's exciting when you have that mindset of going into it of like, okay, this shit's intertwined. There's something here. Let me go in with that mindset. Because as you said in the book, and I can maybe let you guys dive more into it, if you're not in that mindset going in, it's going to come off in a way that might seem like, what the fuck is this? Or like, oh, okay, and I can imagine you have people chime in and, chirping like that. But anything you guys want to start to add while we dive in? But I love the third one, man. I love the pictures.
Well, the reason I did that is because for my own sake, when you learn about this stuff, we're lucky. People don't realize, we were lucky. We're not so, it's Google and stuff, all that stuff is so rigged now that you can't really find what you're looking for like you used to be able to. But there was a time where you could find a lot of this stuff. You might have to dig a little bit or go like kind of like a roundabout way of finding it, but eventually you might come across some tourist's picture of the monument or the work that you're trying to discover and verify it for yourself. And that got increasingly more difficult to research things. So that's why I saved images like in my process. And the reason I put it in that book in color is so it's there, and it'll be there for hundreds of years if people take care of the books. And so it's a little bit more expensive, and that's why, because it's color, it's bigger, and I make half as much money off of it as I would with my other books. So it's like a huge pay cut for me just to try to make it at a reasonable price. But it's by far the one that I'm most proud of. This fourth book that I'm working on is also, I'm pretty proud of this one, but it's not going to be, it's not going to have color imagery because it's going to focus more on like languages and primarily exposing the fraud and what they've done through translations, a lot of deceptive stuff that people are not aware of. And that's the problem is everybody always argues from a place of like a fictitious framework that's not real.
Mhm.
And what my work does is showing you how you're in a framework that is a straw man. It's based on presumptions and all these logical fallacies. It's very much like the flat earth thing, where like a lot of people argue about all this stuff, like God bless him, but David Weiss entertains a lot of bullshit, and he likes to like roll around with the pigs in the muck. So if you have somebody like who's talking about, well, what about this? But what about Saturn's North Pole that, you know, is a hexagram and all that stuff? It's like, well, where's that picture taken from? Space? Whereas my work cuts it off. It says, no, 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 no. Space is a violation of the second law of thermodynamics. How do we know that? Because it's a vacuum. How does gas behave? It fills the available vacuum. Does the air we breathe have gas? Yes. Then how is that possible without containment? And so I don't even entertain that bullshit because I already know it's going off in a logical fallacy construct where there's no reality. And that's what people get caught up in when they're debating scripture and all this other stuff, where it's verifiably not real or authentic documents. And it was created much earlier. In fact, you know, people say the word like the Bible, and they don't even realize that that's a term that didn't really exist in that capacity for like the 1400s. Right. It wasn't called that, you know. So there's just a whole lot of shit, and that you can peel back the layers and see exactly how the timeline of all this religious slavery that's being imposed on us now. You can see where it all begins, and it starts in the 3rd century when the Christians burned the libraries of Alexandria. They started closing all the Neoplatonic schools. You know, the idea that all this stuff took down the Roman Empire is nonsense. It is the institution, right? It is the cult of the eternal fire, the sun. And you can prove it in like 20 different languages, because when you start going back to that philological structure of languages, you see that they're all the same language: Hebrew, Sanskrit. Like the Etruscans in Italy, they spoke, their language is very similar to Sanskrit in terms of its structure and its words. And then as that society dwindled away, it basically degenerated into Latin, right? And so you see how like Hebrew and Greek all come from what we call Egypt, which was never called Egypt, but it also has the same roots and words and all that other stuff. And you see like in the Bible, all of the Hebrew words that they say is Hebrew, all of those can be found in Arabic, the roots. And so there's a story there that my next book is going to be exposing. And you see the corruption and the degeneracy of the translators, because everybody has a vested interest, from the Jews, from the Christians, and from the Persian world, of hiding why they mistranslated stuff intentionally, because the closer you look at it, you're going to see it's the doctrine of emanations. That's when you're talking about, oh, the Bible is basically Kabbalism. Sorry. Basically the cult of Zoroastrianism and the astrology that they were teaching in the Mithriatic caves. So there's a whole ton of history that is covered up that we may never get to, but through language and symbolism. And it's like one of my least favorite things to research or to be interested in. But when I wanted to know what was going on in this world, that's the only place where I could find it and like kind of like dig up the sediment and actually see what's underneath all these words and symbols. And just to correct something, what you guys, what Chance was saying on your previous podcast, I never said I would stop doing this work. I said, so what I used to do when I would write my work is as I was going, I would make memes with appropriate artwork and share segments of my books. And that's how I would market them. This is the days before like the shadow banning really took off. Like when people see my profile and they see there's like thousands of posts or whatever, that's why. And the one that I have that you guys are subscribed to on Instagram, that's actually my backup. I used to have another one that was just private and in the waste bin, but I used to share my work going along. And so then when I said, well, I'm published my July's End last in 2020 in June, I said, if it doesn't make 100 sales by July's End, I'm no longer going to be sharing the memes and stuff. It wasn't that I was ever going to stop doing. I would never do this work for approval. I don't care what the masses. There is no reward for this work. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's fun that I get the real reward is just getting to talk to like Chance, you, Crow, guys that are at a higher level and that we wouldn't otherwise, we wouldn't be talking if I hadn't written these books.
Of course.
You wouldn't know who I was. So it's like that is the real benefit of this work. But that's not, I would never, nothing motivates me to do it other than trying to save my own fucking country and cultures all over the world, because what should be happening is people should be becoming aware of what's going on, what the lie is, how similar it is in every region. And it actually, book 4 explores the idea that, is it possible? Now, I know a lot of people are already balls deep in this with like the Tartaria stuff, but Tartaros means hell. It's an allegory. I mean, that's why it's winter, right? The winter portion of the year. Tartary is a very cold climate. But when you look at these languages from the Agams, which the Irish Agam is literally, it means secret or mysterious, right? It's a secret or mysterious language. And it's a fucking Sanskrit or it's an Indian, from the word is from India.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they have deities like Agnios, which is the Greek, literally, if you look up Agnios, he is Heracles, the sun, get the lion cloth, like the lion head and everything. Why did the ancient Celtics choose a specific set of Greek letters that wasn't introduced to Greeks till like 750 BC, something like that? Why do they have the same like 18 letters as the Arabic, the Greek, Sanskrit, Hebrew, you name it? These cultures are all connected. Where it gets even weirder is why do they have all this particular sacrifices, right? It's the superstitious stuff and the offering of gifts. And the bloody sacrifices, that's a fairly new thing. All that shit is like maybe like Greek Empire, Krishna, that stuff, but like Buddhists were not about that. Like all this stuff that existed before that was not about these like bloody sacrifices or these burnt offerings. Why do all these cultures from the South Americas, they all have these specific set of sacrifices, and they're all too similar, and none of them have ever been proven to work. Mm-hmm. Right? It's all up here in like a religious belief. That's where it starts getting weird, and that's where you have to come to terms with: is this really a priest class that's going from place to place through imperialism and conquest, or are we looking at remnants of a much older civilization that they've covered up? And that's where I think the Tartaria research is valuable, but I don't agree, or I'm not on board with how it's being presented, or that it was called Tartaria, if that makes sense. So that's kind of where I'm at with book 4. And I just wanted to clear that up because I didn't want people to think like if nothing I've ever done has been for the approval or support of the masses, because you guys were even talking about it in your last podcast, that conversation you were having, where sometimes you can tell somebody everything and you can explain it out, lay it out for them, and they're not at a place where they can get it. And this is why there has always historically been a divide between the creative class, the sacred, and the common class, the vulgar. And, this idea of equality is not true. And it's not a bad thing, but we're not equal. We are not the same as other people. Like some people, and that's not a bad thing. Some people are very good at like building things or engineering or other things, but that's all they can do. Like if I were to ask them, like I remember when I was like my friends that I grew up with, blue collar and stuff, they could fix any fucking car, like before the cars were all electronics and stuff. And I would always be like trying with them, and I'm like, well, why does this work? Like how? And they're like, I don't like. What are you asking that shit? This is the fucking carburetor. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they're not in this like philosophical mindset, whereas I'm like this guy. Like I need to know like why is that working?
Exactly.
And that is to my own detriment. Why I can't access what they're doing because I can't just accept that it works. I want to know too much, and if somebody can't explain that to me, I get flustered and confused. And then so it's like, they'll be like, man, what's this fucking guy? He doesn't even know what he's doing on this car. Get him the hell out of here.
Yeah.
So like, we're just not equal. And that's not a bad thing. That diversity is that's how we add value to our communities. You know what I mean? By being singularly exceptional at one thing that we're unreplaceable at. And so this is one of those things where I feel like I am unreplaceable. There's other people that do equally good work, but not the way that I do it. And I think that's where my value is. And the idea, the reason I did these books, a lot of people get mad because like the first one or two have like a really intense tone to it. But it's like I'm writing to my younger self at 16.
Right.
Because if I knew what I knew now, I never would have gone out to Hollywood. That would have stopped me from ever knowing what I know now, but I would rather have had a better life where I built a business and was successful and had like a family and did things that I actually was trying to do than go learn all this shit, sacrifice some of the best years of my life just so I can put it out in books and make a peasant living off of it. You know what I mean? So I don't make enough money to care that much about it, but I did it because I felt like, well, I got hexed. I fell for a lot of these traps. I can help people unhex themselves, but I can't unhex somebody because it's all voluntary. It's going back to what you said. It's like, you ever seen that meme where like it's like an elephant or a horse and they're tied to like a chair and it's like a plastic chair and they don't know that it's not, that they could just run away because something else reinforced that they can't? That's kind of how most people are.
Absolutely.
And you tell them that that's a plastic chair, you're free to go, and they'll look at you like, what? Hold on, I got to get my 8th booster. Give me another mass. I need 5 mass. 4 mass isn't good enough. You know what I mean? It's like they're fucking gone, and you can't help them. You just got to let them go. That's the hardest thing because sometimes those people are people that we love. And so that's why I did this work. I try to. I'm like Nietzsche. Like everybody's good at killing certain sacred cows or whatever. I'm good at the religious text because the word religion, re and lig in Latin, that literally means to bind again. Religare, to bind fast, to thwart from forward progress. There's nothing about that word that has anything to do with truth or freedom. And if people knew what was in these words before they got involved with them, they wouldn't get involved with them. They would keep their spiritual practice between them and God, right? No middleman brokers, no pateres, no fathers of the Christian church, no priests of Apollo, no Brahmins, none of that shit. No druid. Druid means priest. Magi means priest, right? No priest. It's not magicians, it's magi. That was what priests were back. That's what priests meant in Persia. It's only been a recent thing where they have kind of butchered that word and tried to make it sound like they're magician.
Right.
Anyways, I've bogarted the mic enough. Now you guys, it's time for this conversation to flow. But that's my intro.
Thank you, dude. I love every bit of it. And it is, I wanted to take the time to give you that chance to really dive in. But I want Chance to follow up. There's so many ways we could take that conversation. But Chance, what's something that you want to tackle now, or kind of go off of that, or where's your headspace?
I got a few things.
I fucking
but
love.
First, on a technical side, I think because you and Dylan are both no headphones, and you, Pat,
Oh, is there?
there's a bit of ground floor noise with
Hold on one
you.
second.
So that's basically causing Dylan's mic to a little bit cut in and out because it's trying to auto correct for all that. So if both of you did
Hang on a
headphones,
second.
ultimate sound quality. I can't turn off producer mode. I
No,
just
dude.
know this is such a lit
Well, I would have
conversation.
rather if you, said that before I just went on this whole speech, because now it's probably
It's not
here.
garbled. It's all good. It's just gonna be better from here. So that was a great warm up, and it's just gonna get better. I didn't want to
Well,
stop the flow. You were crushing it with your
Is that better on my end?
tipsy talk.
Is it better?
I'm not tipsy yet. This is like my first drop of alcohol, and it's only like a little bit less than half a bottle, so I'll be good.
Yeah,
Trust
it's
me.
all right.
I've
It's
been drinking
already
wine since
improved.
I was a kid. I'm
Awesome.
Italian.
Dude. Well,
Yeah,
sorry about that on my end, guys.
You insulted my cacao, so I had to say something about what you're drinking. Although
I'm drinking the Jesus juice, bro. Stop hating.
So
this
let me
is
just.
this is straight heroin. So
Oh, I know what's happening. Hold on. I got to plug my headphones into my computer.
Yeah, I'm sure.
is it better on my end though?
Yeah, I think so. The ground floor noise is better. So
How about now?
oh, it's amazing now.
Okay.
100%. It's fine, Dylan. I know perfectionist, but like
No, I just wish you said, "Hey, shut the fuck up and start over. Don't let me go." Like, man, I'm ashamed of you right now, Chance. I want the public to know I'm ashamed.
All right, let me just break into the notes that I took mentally while Dylan was flowing. First of all, like to go way back to the beginning when you were talking about Google not being the same as what it used to be. Of course, it's funny that we even equate the term searching for something with Google. Unfortunate, I should say. Yeah. But one thing I noticed, and I know Dylan will get this, that a lot of because writers, and I don't even say this is maliciously done, but because so many writers in Hollywood, in the video game industry, they just cannibalize old names for things and character names and concepts and then reweave those things into their story. It's kind of lazy, honestly. It also might be because they want to be symbolic to something that they're referring to. But the point is, now when you search something, you get at the top of the search results because all anyone wants to do is play games and watch movies. You get that at the first 10, 15, 25 positions of the search results, all the different games that might use the name Thor in it or something stupid.
Right.
So that's a huge issue. And
Hold
why
on, let me chime in.
Yeah.
Let me chime in real quick because a thing that really happened in my generation, because my generation was like the first ones to go over we were all like 18 when 9/11 happened. And there was this guy named, there was this thing where they all came back in like 2005, that first wave, called the Winter Soldiers series. And one of them you've seen, he was just yelling at George Bush the other day, demanding an apology like a couple months ago. His name's Mike Preisner. These guys there's all these accounts. That's how like Adam Kokesh or whatever, I don't know anything about that guy, but that's like one of the things that he was involved in as a young like Marine or whatever returning. Then they dropped that Captain America bullshit. Remember that Captain America Winter Soldier? So when you try to find the Winter Soldiers anymore in the search engine, you can't, because all that comes up like is Captain America nonsense. And that's exactly what you're talking about.
You want to know something funny too? Is like I wasn't sure when we were going to get to it, and I want to save it for a little later because there's other things I want to talk about from in reference to where you started. But the movie Winter Soldier, if you look at the main like theatrical release poster, it looks like this. It is actually the Wheel of Fortune card. I'm not even joking. You can go look it up sometime, and that's exactly what they were copying when they made that poster. And there's a reason for that, but because they have to cannibalize the old systems and everything they do. And there's 22 movies of the Marvel films leading up to Avengers Endgame, and they each.
I must say this, and I'm not making excuses because you are 100% right. I have made the mistake with like fiction so eventually I used I used my own skill set and stuff to create names for my characters in my fiction series. But there was a time where I didn't, and I would like look up mythological archetypes. And I'm guilty of that myself. So I also think it's something that inexperienced writers do as well. So there is that.
I
there
agree,
is
but we're
that
talking about the big D. You know what I'm saying? Like there's plenty of
talking about. Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about me for a second. My bad.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm sure they're tiny D's that work for the big D, but
I mean,
anyway,
but here's
we'll
the
get
thing.
back
So
to
Hollywood, though, Hollywood is where those, that language from India that means the secret language or the secret doctrine. That's what Kabbalah is, right? The secret doctrine. So that was written. If you ever look for those watching this, look up Ogham. It's Ogham, and it's like little hash marks.
So
Each
wait,
letter was like a little hash mark.
I'm gonna stop you. I'm Irish.
There you go.
And I had no idea. I mean, I knew of it, but when you were talking about it, I'm like, I legit, when I was reading your book, I'm like, well, fuck me. But
Yeah, but that ties into the runes. So
right.
that those right angles, they tied into the runes. So that was carved. They would carve those on Hollywood.
Yep. Oh, dude, when you were,
That's how the Druids work. Yep.
dude, it's all in the books, man. I can't say it enough. I didn't mean to cut you short, but when you were talking about it, I'm like,
No, that's fine. And you look Norse. You know what I mean? Like you have those like Nordic features. Like you're obviously over in Ireland as you're not from like the Greek tribes.
No,
Or
yeah.
whoever, or the Romans who you know what I mean? Like
Right.
there's.
But it's cool though, seeing how it all starts. Again, it is connecting. It is one of those things that, just real quick, being that we're all creative, is philosophical in many ways, but also we take action, we do things physically as well. It was one of those things as the creative side of going, how do we connect the pieces here, right? That's just how my mind works. It's as a writer as well in film and television, is how do we bring this thing full circle? That's just how I think. A good story is always coming full circle. Everything has to connect. A good story, and what you're seeing with your books and what we're talking about and what we'll continue to talk about is how it's just that all these religions, all these ancient cultures, and all this crazy nonsense is all connected. It's just knowing with your brilliant work, man, is going, okay, well, how? And that's what a good storyteller is going to do is they're going to show you how they connect the pieces. So when you're watching a film, and you guys know this, you're going, oh shit, I didn't know how the fuck did that happen? And it's like, go watch it again. See that? Do you see that moment? And you go,
like Book of Eli, when he's fucking blind.
Yep.
You don't realize he's blind the whole time, and you watch it the second time, you're like, oh my god, that's awesome,
dude. And that's in every movie, like a good movie that's trying to put pieces in there. And how do I know this? And I think we might have talked about this or someone else, is how many of those clips on YouTube's where it's like 10-minute clips where it's like Easter eggs you missed. People fucking get off on that because they like to know, what did I not see? This is why I believe that people are addicted to deception. There's an addiction to it because people go, oh my gosh, I want to see how someone pulled a fast one for me. I made a post about this a long time ago.
Oh man, that ties into the Magi perfectly.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say,
and it's also a very feminine characteristic. Females have to deceive. That's how they can compete, right? They can't compete physically with men, so they have to deceive. They communicate covertly. How many times have you heard a girl complain, why doesn't he just get it? And they can't, whereas men are used to communicating with you. We communicate overtly. We tell you what we want. They'll tell you like something else and expect you to understand something else. And that's what I'm saying. Like the occult is a very feminine characteristic. And the danger of delving into it too much is you will betatize yourself as a man. It's not an alpha thing to do. So if you want to be like a macho, a guy that women want to be with and men want to be like, you can't be messing around with the occult. Otherwise, you'll lose a lot of your masculinity. And that's what I did. So that's where I'm now pulling myself up out of the muck. So it's like my books are a way to help you avoid that. Bring your ass up to speed. Know what's going on. Don't waste your masculinity on it, right? It's not going to change the world, but it'll make you unhexable.
Yeah, you read the wrong occult books, you'll be dressing up like a woman.
And that's Jupiter. That's what people don't understand, because I know people are starting to talk about like, is the moon feminine? Is the sun masculine? No, they're androgynous. All Abrahamic stuff is androgynous. That is the Trinity, motherfucker. How do you guys not you go back? I mean, even St. Augustine will tell you Jupiter is a man and an eternal maid. Like, this is that hermaphroditic archetype. Hermes, Aphrodite, hermaphrodite.
Right.
In case, and a lot of people, I could say that and people still don't know what I'm talking about. Anubis, Hermes, Mercury, Buddha, Jesus. I think
Odin.
it's a coincidence
Odin in
that,
there.
yeah, Odin. Yeah, so Buddha used to be addressed as Ad, A-D, right? The A is philologically, the O, A becomes A because everything starts off as an O. And you put that little hash mark to differentiate, which would be the I, merge those together, you get A. So you got Od, the root of God, the root of Odin, good, God is good. What does Christos come from? Christus, the good, hence the Christians, the good fellows.
Wow.
God is good. Good
And the Odd
Morgan.
Fellows. Odd Fellows. That's a
That's
even
yeah,
more
and
occulted
it's
or secret society connected to the Masons.
odd refers to that one. It's different. What is something that is odd? It's not normal. It's away. It's apart from the
Well, I
rest.
mean, and that also connects to that same root of that Odin connects to.
Yes, it does. That's what I'm saying. It's like because the original God was the one. All these names come after their name for the sun, which is the circle, or the O, the one. And then to differentiate when you're talking about O or the one versus God, you would put the hash mark of the A next to it, or it would be turned around the other way. So Ad, Ud. So Buddha is Odin. That's why you see these archetypes because they are the sun. I think it's a coincidence that Mercury's mother is Maya, that Buddha's mother is Maya, Mahamaya, the great Mary.
Right.
No, this is not coincidence. This is an observable hodgepodge of the same symbolism
And the
by
first
the
thing was
same
the first
cult.
thing Mercury does or Hermes does after being created. Does he like go steal the cattle from Helios?
Yeah, Helios, the sun.
Yeah, stealing from the sun, basically becoming the replacement sun, inheriting it.
Yep. And you also see it in like Yah, or in Greek, it would be iota eta, the first two words of Jesus, J-E or I-E. And then in Hebrew, it's Yod He. It's the first two letters in Yova, who everyone calls Jehovah, who everyone calls Yahweh, because you can transliterate these words because they're interchangeable. Hebrew and Greek, the H and E are interchangeable. And this is why people need to know language, unfortunately, because it's like fucking watching paint dry. It's so monotonous learning this shit, and I hate learning it. But these languages are how they keep tricking people because of the interchangeability of letters in the past, and they don't see it. They don't. If you don't know language, it's like that's why when guys were talking about in the previous podcast, you can tell somebody about all this information, and they're just looking at you like, what the fuck
Right.
is that? Because they don't know this. It's not that they're stupid.
No.
They just don't have the experience or the interest to learn about this stuff. And as a result of that, they are extremely ignorant.
Right.
And they're arguing about all this shit that my book resolves. All of my books resolve this stuff and shows you what you're looking at. It is the sun.
I heard a good joke today. I think it was from my friend Gabriel, YouTube channel Slick Dissident, and he said, if you know two languages, you're bilingual. If you know three, you're trilingual. If you only know one, you're American.
Dude, and it didn't used to be like that. Look at our founding fathers. Motherfuckers knew like 6 languages and shit, because they didn't have all these distractions.
Now, another thing though, I want to ask your opinion on, Dylan. I could agree that studying the occult can feminize and collectivize somebody if they're not, very aware of that possibility. But what about if you go to the gym a lot, you lift heavy weights? Will that counteract it?
Yes and no. You can still be a jacked, plugged in beta male, right? Or like a blue pill alpha, as they call it. So it's really about what you're spending your time doing. And I'm not talking about YouTube, right? Like, so don't get it twisted, because you guys produce content.
Right.
I produce content. But there are some men and women, but the men are who who I'm more concerned about, because that's who I can relate to. That's who I can help. Women need to focus on their own, right? Women left to help each other have just been, you do you, girl. Act like a fucking second-rate man. Fuck whoever you want. It's not gonna cheapen your value. Don't worry about it. You'll be jaded, single
Yes,
mother with.
queen.
Yes, you just do that, and then women lie to each other because they're like. They're like you people, Pat, telling people that Iceland is Greenland and Greenland is Iceland. So they go to the wrong fucking place.
Right.
That's what's being done. I'm just joking, but like literally,
I know it's funny.
It's like
It's but
this stuff. You as a man, if you're not putting out and creating more content than you consume, if you're not making a dent in the universe, if you're not cutting the world around you, what are you doing in the physical world around you to make impacts on people's lives?
That's
If
like
you're
just
not doing
living
that,
your purpose.
yeah. So
Having a purpose and sticking to it.
Exactly.
Major
and
key.
so you guys are not. I'm not talking about you two.
No,
you do have, but you two both have to be mindful of it, because you can go into these rabbit holes forever.
Dude, I agree. And I think there's like everything else, there's a balance too. Like same thing with exercise, same thing with emotions, is learning that balance of like, I can speak for myself, is when you start to wake up to certain things, or when I had, when you find rabbit holes or you find people that you can see like, okay, they know something, you take the time to just be an observer, just listen, take in the information, allow whatever emotions to come through, but just be with the information. And then going, okay, now how do I move forward? How do I create from this? How do I, I don't say transcend, but how do I get from this? Because like you said, if you're just always content consuming, then what are you doing? You're literally the person in the basement being like, did you hear what they're going to do next? And then you're like, fuck, dude. But then it's a matter of going, hey, this information's out here. This is what I've gathered. Here's how I'm going to present it to people. I've done it now, myself. I do it with music, trying to send a good message with music. The podcast, bringing people on, who get it, or at least are on these paths, and we can have a conversation about it. Be like, yeah, this shit's happening. It sucks, or yeah, it's unfortunate, but here's how we do things differently. Here's how we can move forward from it. And it goes with even exercise too, man. It's like some people just want to know how to do all this stuff, but now you put them under the physical stress. At least as a personal trainer for as long as I had, these are things that I'm really comfortable talking about. Is people know the concept, but then when they're in it, it's a totally different environment, it's a totally different outcome to what they've, kind of conceptualized of what we're doing. And they're going, for example, we do something, they go, I didn't know that was going to be so hard. I didn't know. I panicked. A totally different mind space compared to what the physical was, the actual action that was taking place. So, as you said, it's learning how to not get caught up. And I'm totally with you, man, because I can speak for myself again. And I know for a fact there was moments early on where I was like, I need to stop, man. I'm going gamma in these moments here. And it's being able to admit it and go, I need to take a break, pull back, but it's part of the journey. But I just want to add one more thing to it is, I think through this, as we were saying, people can't see things. It's not that they're stupid. I for the longest time was thought people don't want to hear truths because they're afraid of the truth being more basically scary than the narratives that are being pushed. And there is some truth to that, but maybe you guys can add it onto this. I also think even more so, being that so much stuff is occulted and hidden, people are more afraid of someone telling them like, you have more potential in you than you ever realized. And that's a big shoes to fill. And I think from my point of view, and is training wise, is, and again, it's all intertwined here, is going, I've seen so many people stop themselves short because they were afraid that they were going to push themselves to a point that was an unknown. Or in movies, we watch these movies of all these superheroes, all these these mythology.
Don't watch those movies.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
done with them.
Yeah.
I don't care how much there is like to decode how fun that
that's
is.
like an alpha thing right there.
I'm over Marvel. I have a bunch of comic books in my closet. I'm just saying, I'm done with that shit.
Right.
I'll listen to people talk about their decodes about it, and like I appreciate that it can be a teaching tool for esoteric thought, like the astrology and tarot can be decoded from it and all that, because kind of everything is everything, and it's the same story told over and over again. But I'm just not watching the movies anymore. I'm done.
Right. But I'm just saying, from the people who aren't in the same headspace as like either of you guys, they're going, man, I love this Thor character because I want to be him. How do we know? They wear the fucking t-shirts and they dress up as these characters as adults. right? And so the point I'm getting at is they see themselves wanting to step into this, oh, that's just a character. It's like, yeah, but these are based off of some of those principles that are within all of us of strength, power, resiliency, gratitude, love, all of the emotions that we feel. And I think that's scarier for people. And I
They're
think,
afraid of the montage, gonna need a montage.
yeah,
You know what I'm talking
yeah,
about?
right,
To
totally.
get stronger, like go to the gym, the gym montage.
The what's it, Top Gun, where they're playing volleyball on the beach.
Oh, that super homoerotic fucking yeah. Oh God.
Yeah, right.
That was a big actually that's one of the things where I started I stopped watching movies. I mean I've worked with Tom Cruise. He's a wicked nice guy. Like I kicked sand in his face in the middle of a scene and he could have fired. He was one of the producers. He could have fired me. He had like a really great attitude. He's like, at least he didn't step on my head. Super great guy to work with.
Who?
Tom Cruise.
Oh, okay.
But man, I've heard some shit about him, and some of the shit that I heard about him, I'll tell you what, between him, like these Will Smiths types, these fucking John Travoltas. Hey John, if you're watching, I know you're not, but you like girls? No?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yes, no, no, yes. Motherfuckers like asking, I shouldn't say anything. I
Can we
got
read some
stories on
definitions
all
of the
these
word
people.
nice real quick? Nice means delicate. It means soft, tender, dainty, sweet. These are words like you don't want to be a nice guy. I'm just saying there's nothing really good about it. Other definitions, I'm looking at the 1828 dictionary right now. Weak, foolish, effeminate, trivial, unimportant. These are the words that easily injured. These are words that nice means.
Right. Dude.
All I'm saying is Hollywood's run by the gay mob, and I'm not saying anything about any of the gentlemen I just mentioned, but
Here's the thing, man.
you can see it. You don't need me to say it. You can see it.
Right.
And when I learned that, like all these guys, we ended up growing up like watching their movies and stuff, and you find out they're just like raging, sexually inverse people. Some of them are predators. I'm not saying any of those other guys are predators, but in my opinion, some of the shit that's happened to my friends around some of these motherfuckers in private is very predatorial and disgusting.
Yeah.
And like a bunch of gay Harvey Weinsteins, if you get what I'm saying.
And here's the thing, it's not bashing certain people like who are just like,
that goes without saying, we're talking about predatory.
Right. No, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not talking about just being homosexual because so like my that's the thing is like for me, like I grew up in the theater world, like in high school and college. A lot of my friends are gay. That's that's how I got in with the Hollywood crowds because like I was hanging out with mostly gay friends.
Right.
And I was just always of the mindset like I don't care what your sexuality is. If you don't do that shit with me, I'm not going to be sitting here doing that like my straight stuff with you. Who gives a shit? Are we friends or are we not friends? I don't care what you do behind closed doors.
Right.
But that being said, me being a champion for their rights and then come to find out they're like not champions for our rights. They want to actually like enslave us. They want to take away all the masculine shit. And once you start realizing that agenda, you're like, what the fuck? I thought we were friends. Oh no, we're not friends. You're just fucking parasites who use people to forward your own self-centered interests. And you actually don't like freedom. You like your freedom and slavery for everybody else. And that's my problem is like, I started seeing this shit. So I started finding out about all this creepy shit. And then I haven't watched movies seriously since like 2008 because I was just like, man, it's all just a bunch of fucking gay dudes pretending they're straight. America's buying it up and all the, look at all the women. Like the women take their advice from like, hollowed out, disgusting other feminist women who got nothing going for them in the sexual marketplace. And they have no value in that. And they're taking their advice from gay men.
Right.
Yeah, and the masculine characters are just treated like buffoons, like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking sick of it. If I'm gonna be honest, I'm fucking sick of it. I'm fucking sick of the destruction of masculinity and this fucking feminine garbage. These guys who are raised by only single mothers to come up and behave like defective women as men, and then they're sitting here. It's like creating this chaos storm of fucking communism and socialism, because in a perfect world, a woman is going to want to take care of everybody. And so that's where that egalitarianism comes from, egalitarianism. Come all this like equality, everybody's equal,
Right.
benefits for everybody, like just stuff that's not sustainable in any type of logical sense. Where are you going to get this? By going in debt. Well, you look at consumer debt, mostly women. You look at fucking college debt, mostly women. Like obscene like ratios.
Right.
And what we have is a feminization of our culture. They are literally clipping our balls off. And it's not just spiritually and mentally. You look at testosterone levels, studies have come out this past year showing that men in their late 60s, like 68 years old, had more testosterone in 2001 than young men in their early 20s do have today. You don't think that's a fucking problem? That's the problem.
I look at my grandpa's the example. My grandfather's hands make me look like a child.
Right.
You know, and some of that's because he worked on a farm when he was young and he developed that way. And I have delicate typist hands, right? And they're not even that small relative to other dudes around me. Like I'm a pretty big dude. I'm like 6'2", 190. Not small, really, by today's standards. But when I'm next to my grandfather, his biceps are like the size of my fucking head.
Dude,
it's ridiculous.
That arm strength, man. And that's the thing too about kind of bringing to even the gym. Like, what's interesting is you see even guys.
He never stepped in a gym, I bet, his whole life.
Probably.
I'll just say he probably never did that ever. You know,
you didn't need to, man. And that's what's so funny is in the fitness world is being that there are more feminine men. It's like you see when people get like calluses on their hands or tear their arms from doing deadlifts or whatever the case was. It was all anyone could fucking talk about. And that was the one thing that blew my mind. I'm like, why are we talking about your cuts and your kick? Because people, it was like their way to be like, I'm tough. I got blood. And it's like, dude, it's a callus, man. You tore a callus. It's unfortunate, but like you'd see people be like, fuck. I'm like, what happened? Oh, dude, like you're not gonna believe it. Like, look at this callus. And you're like sitting there like, way to set it up, man. Like I totally like, cool. What's the point in telling? Because it's like this desire to bring back a masculinity, but it's like, again, driven by, as you said, a very feministic, state nature of everybody. And that's the one thing that I think is important to what we're talking about is going, hey, man, all this shit isn't about bashing people to be negative. It's going, no, there's a serious problem here. Truthfully, as you said, testosterone going down dramatically since 2000s comparatively to 68-year-olds to 20-year-olds.
I'm the poster boy for it. If anybody's watching this like in the future and gets offended, I'm the poster boy for it. So I'm literally half the shit that I'm like yelling at and ranting at. It's me ranting about myself. So don't take any of this personally, because I know what it's like to go through this. I grew up extremely alpha, and I had the Napoleon complex because I grew up playing ice hockey with kids who were like 3 years older than me. They beat the shit out of me. And so I was tough. So when I played against kids my own age, I fucking dominated them. But then I was going into high school, I was only 5 feet tall. So I have that like aggressive Napoleon complex. And then my junior year, I grew like 8 inches in one fucking year. It was super painful, but now I was like bigger than everybody that used to pick on me, and I could whoop everybody's ass now. So it's like, I am talking about myself. I've gone through this, and so like when we talk about this shit, we're trying to help you not go through what we've gone through. Because now I'm 38, and I'm lucky that I have good genes and I took care of myself and I look good. But I wasted the most significant years of my life when I needed to be more masculine and doing more shit in the physical world, starting businesses, creating more relationships, doing stuff that actually mattered, that would help me take care of my community and my family, whatever. Instead, I wasted it pursuing my quote unquote dreams, not realizing that things that I were pursuing are like not open to the public unless you're, willing to suck somebody's dick or let, them suck yours. I've had Academy Award winners joke about roofing my drink at dinner.
Right.
And I'm saying, oh, no, I'm good. I don't want to wake up with a sore ass. And they're like, oh, no, I don't want to fuck you. I just want to suck your cock.
Yeah, dude.
That kind of fucking shit is what's going on in this world. And you want to talk about all these people blame white alpha males, all this other white supremacy, toxic man. Motherfucker, I've been in the halls of power. It's nothing but nasty, fucking trashy, used up, unfuckable feminist women and homosexual men and very beta-tized men. You think Bill Gates is an alpha male walking around with those fucking bitch tit Billy and his fucking wife, Kevin Klein? No, that's not fucking masculinity, you guys. You think Fauci, who looks like he can't even grow a beard, is fucking masculine? You think Trump?
Right.
You're fired. You think that's masculine? That ain't fucking masculinity. And I'm not knocking Trump. I'm just saying these people are like, they're things that people can focus on their energy. They're like puppets, and everybody's like mad at the marionettes, whatever they're called, instead of looking at who's fucking conducting them and who made them and who they work for. And that's why I don't focus on individual people. I focus on the systems, because you can't blame one person for any of this shit. It's a system, and we're all guilty. So the most empowering thing is to say, I have participated, I contributed this.
Right.
So I'm not going to throw rocks at other people's windows. They're fucked up, but I'm also just as fucked up because I also bought into this bullshit.
Absolutely.
What can I do to expose the system? So give whoever still has a conscience intact some chance to recognize what's going on so that they can stop participating. Absolutely. Because the game doesn't stop until people say this game is fucking rigged and it's lost all of its credibility. Yep. We need to just go create something else. Absolutely. Right now, everyone's like, they know it's rigged and they're just like, but if we can just get like one of our guys as one of the refs to give us some calls, we'll fucking win. Yeah, and you're like, that's like this, like, oh, trust the plan. Oh, you ever seen Owens?
So tired of that. I can't believe that's still.
You ever seen Owens? You ever seen Owens cartoon where it's like that guy? He's like,
he's the example of get the hell out of this.
He's like that guy. He's like, oh fuck, John Podesta's in the sewers. Here comes Hillary. Oh, trunk off the top ropes. I'm jerking off again. You know what I mean? Like that's literally what these fucking internet troglodyte, trashy beta male scumbags are doing all day. Fucking scurrying around the internet ghettos, doing absolutely nothing masculine. And so if you're one of those guys, don't get mad at me. I'm trying to fucking help you.
Right.
Yeah. Recognize that I actually am trying to help you. Bros before hoes. Here's my hand. Grab it. I'm going to pull you up out of that fucking muck and let's get you going. Because I've been in that situation. I fucking fell in the muck. I lost what I was, became totally beta-tized, to a point where I was believing in all these delusional things that weren't real. And now I had to pick myself back up, and I'm still doing it, and I'm still down at the bottom, but I'm on the trajectory of upwards. So I know the hardest part about getting on that path is turning it around and how you make that decision. And so, or decision, but there are many decisions that need to be made. And one of the best ones that anybody can do is just get in the gym and get lifting heavy weights. And the hardest part to do when you're thinking of that is, what do I do? And so having a program helps you, 5 days of workouts, whether that's power upper, power lower, back, biceps, chest, triceps, and then, I don't know, some other, I can't remember what the other one I do is, but like 5 different days of workouts, and you can start seeing results. You just got to change your diet, and get busy, because once you start looking good, you beat out over 20%, over 80% of the population. You're in the top 20% just by not being ugly. Most people are fucking overweight and obese, like unhealthy overweight.
Absolutely.
If you can just not be fat and disgusting, you will have a competitive advantage, whether that's getting jobs. And people can get mad at this, but it's like, we are shallow. We are attracted to attractive things.
It's just it's electricity too, man. Like if you've got all this extra padding and armoring, and also your energy is completely out of whack. Like, I mean, you brought up these jerking off to like the news drop of like the Q drops or whatever.
Oh, look at the symbols, the fucking symbols. God. Oh my God, by their symbols you will know them.
These people are out there like talking about human trafficking and how like the white hats are busting the human trafficking rings while they're probably watching porn on the internet that's free because it was with people that were literally trafficked.
Right.
So quit porn immediately.
Yep.
Quit wasting your sexual energy. Retain your masculinity through that. That's going to be a huge, you'd have no idea what that'll do for you until you try it. But if that seems hard, then you need to look at the boundaries that you've got between you and the toxic feminine energy in your life. And so I want to just like make a caveat. Feminine energy isn't toxic in and of itself. Just like masculine energy can be amazing. Yeah, exactly. It's the earth. It's receptivity. It's bountiful and plentiful, but you got to have the masculine energy to get out there and make something of that earth, to do something with that earth. And so
there's nothing better than a good woman who makes you wake up every day and you're like, damn, I want to be a better man because I love this woman so much. It's so fucking awesome. Like that. We're not talking about fucking authentic femininity.
If you're always like focused on the trashy, toxic version of that, especially through the screens, especially through pornography, you will draw to yourself the exact match of what it is that you're constantly focused on. I know that sounds like law of attraction, but what it is that you literally will be putting off a beta pheromone. Like it just is what it is. You need to do something about it. And anyway, like Dylan said, this is all like personal experience shit. I know. So I want to maybe, you guys cool with like maybe pivoting? I feel like we've hit a good point on this. Oh, dude, pivoting back into some. I
was going to ask you if you wanted to maybe take it on a path wherever you see fit, man.
Well, there's a lot of I want to ask Dylan some questions. Can I do that? Dude, I know it's honestly, not my show.
Once I knew you guys were both coming on, I was like, I kind of just want to listen. So, I mean, I'll chime in.
You guys, what really happened was Pat was totally jealous of our bromance chance. I wanted on that motherfucker. Dude,
everybody's jealous of.
I was literally, while you guys are talking, I'm like, oh God. Yeah. I'm like, you guys are like, yeah, what a fucking two. I'm like, yeah, what a fucking two.
Yeah, no, whatever you want.
Like I said, man,
I'll set boundaries. If somebody asks me something too personal, I'll just be like, yeah, that's not for the internet.
No, dude, I like
your in private.
Dude, I was gonna say, I don't fucking care, man. I'm
pretty much an open book because I feel like I have such a unique experience that other guys. I know what it's like to walk in all shoes. I've been the loser. I've been the fucking hero. I've been the guy that can get any girl he wants. I've also been the guy that girls won't look twice at, and so I know where you're at. If you're watching the audience, do not give up, man. You can fucking 6 to 8 months, you can change everything. Just change your mindset and say, fuck it. I'm going to fucking improve myself and work on myself and not chase women. I got to make myself better because that's what's important. I got to work on myself.
About boundaries. Don't chase women and don't try to fix women. Especially
don't be mad. It's nothing's, women are as much of a victim of this programming as men are. And that's the problem.
They're more targeted by this shit.
Yeah. Yes, they are. Because why? Women, for some reason, are better at like falling in line. They're better at
that's just what yin is. The yin is receptivity.
Yeah. And so that's it. And the women, guys, do everything for women. So if you can control the women and get them on a certain type of frequency that makes them expect certain things from guys, well then guys, in order to get the women, will be like, shit, I gotta do this. I gotta make $1 million. I gotta fucking sell my soul. I gotta fucking take out all this debt. I gotta do, and like all of a sudden guys are literally doing all this crazy shit that doesn't benefit them just to try to get women, only to find out that women don't work the way that this society has been telling them that works. And a lot of times women don't even know that they don't like when guys become more feminine to cater to them and try to relate to them. It's a subconscious stuff that
they think they want like a nice guy, and they don't realize that means soft, weak, foolish.
And then you become that guy, and that woman is already off to some good-looking Chad like us.
And you know what? Not my fault. Don't be a nice guy. I don't mean don't be kind. I just want to replace the word nice with like, you can be kind, you can be generous. Like those are masculine traits to be so wealthy and badass that you can just be like, give. That's good. The masculine is the giving side.
The things they said, like holding a door open, complimenting your woman and, someone that you cared much about and being like, you look beautiful today. Like that's in my opinion, being a man. Of just like telling my fiance, being like, I love you. Like, I want you to know, like, you look beautiful today. I don't feel it. Well, I swear I feel like I do love you more than like for me, like letting her kind of know like, hey, at least for me, I'm here for you, but like not it being like, like, what do we need to talk about? It's just going like, look, I know you're going through some shit or whatever your mindset is. Just know we'll take care of it. I will take care of it. I do love you. Like things like that. Like at least I have my experiences. Instead of being like, oh my God, like what's wrong? Like just being like, I'm here for you. I love you. We'll take care of this. Like, and then maybe that's
and
not.
then go crush, and then just go crush.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, maybe that's not exactly how you guys see it, but like for at least my experiences of just letting them know, like, and maybe this is part of the feminine side, but it's just going like, hey, I love you.
Awake women will tell you that they don't want you to try to fix their problems when they tell you the problems anyway.
I just want you to listen and not get emotional. Like let them unload their baggage and just like, okay.
Yeah.
And then the man, but we've been programmed like when we hear all that unloaded on us, we're like, oh well, I'll do this and I'll fix that.
Right,
and
exactly.
No, don't go there. You don't need to go there.
I'm not doing that. It's just literally just listening.
I know. You're on it, bro.
So
all right. I want to pivot though.
Take us where you want to roll with it.
Dylan, we have a famous conversation about the 4 royal stars. This is what people reference when they bring you up to me a lot. And I came across the realization that these 4 fixed signs of the zodiac, the royal stars, are no longer in there. And I wanted to know what you thought about that. This gets into some cosmology stuff, maybe, potentially, whether or not you want to go that route. But there are stars that appear to not move, and then there are stars that parallax.
Well, hold on a second. Which stars appear to not move?
Well, at the same rate. They're not moving at the same rate, I guess is what I mean by that. They're all moving over time, like the sidereal astrologers will tell you, but the 4 royal stars have apparently been parallaxing faster and have moved into neighboring signs, into mutable signs. Have you heard about this?
So are you saying that like Aldebaran is no longer part of Taurus, the constellation?
It seems like it's moved. This is what people are saying in, I don't have a telescope to look, but this is what researchers that I've been looking at are saying, and that in 2012.
Are they showing you pictures of Aldebaran in like a neighboring, in like Gemini or in Aries instead of in Taurus?
They're saying that it's moved into Gemini.
The house that Gemini would have, or the actual constellation of Gemini?
I think the actual constellation. I just wanted to know what your thoughts are on this, or is that not happening?
I'm not going to comment unless you can show me a picture of Aldebaran in the constellation Gemini, like actually part of that constellation.
Okay, I'll table that for now. We might talk about that another time. Yeah, we can look at images.
Say if we want to take and maybe talking about the cosmology and kind of bringing it back to the people as well, and the power within all of us, the deceptions. There was one thing I wanted to bring up to you based off reading your books, and you guys can both chime in. So one thing you continually talk about is, Janos in January, for those who don't know, and how they're saying based off of their thing, that's the new year, right? It's after, December, the sun goes to die, resurrected.
It is though, if you think about it, because that is the point where the sun is at its lowest.
Right.
But every culture has its own starting point. Like the Egyptians went the exact opposite. And so it was in the scarab, Cancer, because that's where the summer solstice is.
Right.
But there's something that happens that's really remarkable at those solstices where, for whatever reason, I guess if you're looking at it from like a flat earth cosmology, so just imagine it going around, like here we are, Tropic of Cancer. I'm going to do it slow. So you see this is where I'm at, Tropic of Cancer, going a little bit further. Oh, now we're at the equator. Oh, now we're at the Tropic of Capricorn. When it's at that apex, if you will, the solstice, it stays there for 3 days before it starts
to come back,
moving every day back towards the Tropic of Cancer. Right. And so those are good starting points because of that. But ultimately, that's just what civilization decides is like the start of the years, whereas the calendar of Romulus started it at the vernal equinox.
Okay.
Because that's when actually things started to come to life. That would be considered like March 25th, if you will. That's the resurrection. The sun is now coming out of the dead, winter. Now it has passed over, paschalis, Latin, Passover. It's passed over, just like the word Hebrew means, passed those who have passed over the degrees of initiation of the Hebraic degrees in these mystery schools, that's the symbolism. So it doesn't matter where you start the year. They just choose those points based on what happens. You know, really what matters in the grand scheme of the year is what the sun's activity, because that affects all the life.
Right. Well, this is the reason why I wanted to just chime in, is because of, as I said, with my job, there's a lot of watching people and observing and processing. And one of the things that any trainer, even anyone who goes to the gym, what do we see during the new year? Everyone has their resolutions, right? What am I going to do? What do I want to see differently? So this is my experience from the gym. In the 10 plus years of training, January 1st, right around the new year, everybody's in the gym. It's packed. 4 or 5 weeks later, it's dead. A lot of these people are gone. And we know this. Trainers will be like, oh man, no one, you know, it's like, oh, everyone will get a rush and then it'll be gone in a couple of weeks. And that it, like clockwork, would happen. And then what happened? Just like you said, March 25th, end of March, right around spring break, Easter, we would see a huge influx again. And it, for me, people are like, oh, that's just how it is. And I go, but that makes no sense, because so many people who are not connected aren't showing up. So what the fuck is it? And for me, this is before I was deep dive rabbit holes, is going, is there something energetically that we're being totally off kiltered with in regards to our energetic field? Like you said, the vernal equinox being around.
Hold on though. If the answer is no to this question, I want you to start paying attention. Do you notice that like people who start working out maybe towards like the equinox, the vernal equinox, will actually sustain better because that's the time of the year where things are in their favor?
That's
what you're saying?
That's what I would notice, is that most people who start in January, it was almost like a gotcha. Where people would come in and they wouldn't sustain, but the people who would come in March, and some of them would come back from starting in January, you would see a huge influx of just brand new people in March, but also some people would come back and be like, all right, I'm ready to get back on the horse, and they would sustain longer. And how do I know this? Well, I'd see it in my calendar, how many sessions I was doing, and who was coming back, who was new, who was staying, how long they would stay, and I would see it right in my calendar. So I was experiencing and observing this firsthand, and that for me made me really go, as I was reading your books and looking more into this cosmology and looking into the bigger picture, was going, that's what it was. There's something there. I can't speak specifically to it, but it was going, there's knowing that we drive off the energy of the sun, this realm that we're in. It's like, is there a deception that was being put on people where it was like, because here's the thing, the people who would start, it was going, I fell off the wagon. I can't do this. I'm not cut out for this. It was giving people the marketing, new year, new you, this and that. So what did people do? They were going in hard as fuck, and they didn't have the mental capacity to go in hard. So they want to do 5 times a week, 6 times a week, and they burn out because they would go the physical and going, I'm not used to this. As I said,
I started at 3 times a week. That's all I could do when getting back into it. So now I do it 5, but.
And again, you would tell people start out slow, but a lot of trainers as well want their business. So if someone's coming in saying, hey, I'll do 5 times a week, of course you're going to do like, why am I going to say no for a lot of people? And it just started making me think about, when you talked about, in your books like Janos, and talking about a lot of the spellcraft, even though you said it depends on the culture or the religion, like how they perceive.
Well, regardless, you can look at, if it doesn't matter what religion you are, it's all based on astrology. And if you know that astrologos, you know what time of the year to do things. Exactly. And this is the stuff that I don't really talk about too much, because potential for abuse is like, it's to no end. And a lot of people ask me to tell them certain things that I know, and I'm just like, no, because I'm not going to be responsible for your degeneracy. But if you look at, this is the power, this is why flat earth was so important, right? And for those who, this is new, maybe never come across this subject, if you're just coming on this on YouTube, if you know how sextants work, you can't do those on a curved surface, because you need an angle. Like when you do triangulation, you need angles that cannot be derived on curved surfaces. That's not a triangle. Sorry. And not only that, it requires like thousands to millions of square miles when you look at how these people are triangulating their positions using the stars and sextants. That being said, aside from sextants being proving flat Earth, proving, not maybe something else, whatever we're on is a plane, not literally flat. There's mountains, there's valleys, there's miles deep oceans, there's miles high mountains. I'm not talking about literalist bullshit. I'm just saying, for all intents and purposes, level plane. When you figure out that these stars, I mean, I've read books, really old fucking books, and these positions of the stars have not changed, other than the retrograde motion of that. They used to call this the eighth sphere. So if you look at like medieval astrology or go back like to the first few centuries AD in like the Arabic world, what you'll see is the eighth sphere. And I got this wrong on Crow. I think I said like a couple, like 8 centuries or whatever, but what it's not. It's like 6. They believed that what happened was the precession was a swing for things adjusting for like 620 years or something like that, 640 years, one of the two, and then would go back like a pendulum. And it wasn't until we're getting closer to like the more new age stuff, post-Renaissance, where they had the technology to measure it more accurately. And they're looking at like where it was in the past. And like, well, we're way fucking beyond 600 years now from when this book was written. This shit is never stopping. It's a complete cycle. And based on that degree of 72 years, everything proceeding, the precession being 1 degree every 72 years, that would take almost 26,000 years if it went around the whole zodiac. They still don't know. They can't prove it because nobody lives long enough and nobody's taken accurate information and actual photographic evidence. So if this type of subject matter is interesting to you as a viewer, you should be using your telescopes, documenting this with photographic images now, so that people 1,000 years from now can revisit this and say, look, this is where it was, this is where it is now. We figured it out, right? But until then, it's all just speculation. But anyways, to go back to this, the stars have not changed relatively at all in thousands of years, other than the precession, right? And people say, oh, well, we can see on this cave scribbled, Vega used to be the pole star. I'm calling bullshit. I don't care what somebody wrote on a fucking cave. I don't care what you know what I mean? Like, how many names have there been from the sun?
Right.
You got people literally talking about like other planets that we see in our solar system being old suns, not realizing that, no, they are just old fucking names of the sun now being ascribed to planets.
Right.
Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Chronos, Saturn. I can do it in multiple languages. They are all old names for the sun. Even Isis was a name for the sun before it was ascribed to the moon, right? That's why you have this. When you look at like the zodiac, Crow said it best. He said, for lack of better words, he said, if you just look at the sun as a different actor playing different roles in different parts of the year, in the springtime, it's going to be a feminine deity like Isis, like Venus, vernal, Venery, that's the hunt. Then in Libra and fall, end of summer, it's going to be more of a Virgo, a feminine. That's when the fruit of the womb is bountiful, right? But the rest of the year, it's masculine because you're dealing with either the wrath of God in the summertime or the death of fucking Hades in the wintertime, you know, where everything dies. And that is where the Trinity comes from, because the early
back,
people,
guys. Gotta let a dog out.
Yeah, no worries.
Just a sec.
The early people used to look at the sun as a dual entity, a creator and a destroyer, summer, winter. That then evolved to, well, actually, it's also a preserver, because that creation and destruction is part of the cycle that preserves everything. It needs to happen.
Right.
So this is where you get the Trimuti, which in India is 3 gods, 1 form.
Yep.
That's what led to the Greek hypostases, which then the early fathers of the Christian church were all initiates in all the mystery schools of the fucking Hellenic world, right? Helleny, who we call Hellenic, right? Hellenic. they were all mystery students of those mystery schools, and then they created Christianity. And and what's been done with Christianity is so disingenuous by the church. But that's where the Trinity comes from. The Greek hypostases, which are hypostasis, right? That word literally means understanding or subsistence. And that comes from the Orient, the Trimuti, the three gods, one form. And you can see this in every culture. And why? Because in the old years, the way the year was divided up, it was divided into three parts. Autumn was not its own season. Autumn was considered part of summer. So you had spring, summer, and autumn as one season, and then winter is the other. Right. So that's why you have Noah and his three sons. That's why you have you can go into it. If people want to go deep into this, read my books. But
sure,
that's where all this shit comes from. It's all an allegory for nature. Buddha's the sun. Jesus is the son. You look at his root name. I mean, this is something that should have like sent shockwaves through the modern world. But going back to what you said, you can tell people the truth and they're not smart enough or aware enough to understand it. The old name of Jesus, the root of Jesus, is the old monogram of Bacchus, the sun, which would be in Greek iota eta sigma, which is IHS, but keeping in mind that H and E in Greek is interchangeable, which would be IES. The root IE, Yod He, Greek, in Hebrew, Yod He, Vav He, that's Yova, that's Jehovah, who you call Jehovah. That's how you could transliterate it, because the Yod could be a Y or an I. It could, A could be, the He could be an E or an H. The Vav could be a W, V, or U. The second He, obviously an E or an H, right? So you have YH, the WH, Yahweh. That's all mispronounced. Every culture has their own way of saying it, but it's Yova, and it is, if you transliterate it the way it's supposed to be, it's IEUE, Jew. That's where Jew comes from, that root IE, which in Latin is IO, Yo, Yosef, Joseph, Joseph, Joe, the sun increasing. What is one of Jupiter's moons? Io, Io, Yo, Joe. That's what that, going back to what I was saying, the first word for the sun was the O, right? The one. Mm-hmm. And you have to differentiate, they created the hash mark. So you have the, it would look like, I guess, this way. I'm trying to do it for your audience. That becomes the A, Yah, right? So that iota, eta, or that Yod He in Hebrew becomes what people will sometimes write as J-A-H. Keep in mind, because you're looking at I-H, because it could be I-E or I-H, or Y-H, Yah, and Hebrew doesn't do the vowels. So you have to know how to say words and differentiate, because that old language worked that certain way, where you need to know what it means as a cultural norm. The letters are just symbols. And so when you look at this, going back to Bacchus, I'm saying this on Crow, and it should have caused shockwaves throughout the world, and it doesn't, because people can't access it. And this is why they have the mystery schools to begin with. Totally. I just showed you Jesus, the Son, Bacchus. Problem with it in Greek is it also ends in a Latin termination, US.
Right. You talk about this in your
book.
They
translated it in Greek. They wrote it in Latin, translated it in Greek, transliterated it in Greek to make it appear older than it was. Well, the same thing can be said about the word Christian. And I'm gonna expose this it's in my book 4, so I'm not gonna say it, but it's got the same problem as Bacchus, a Greek, the word that was allegedly created by Greeks that has a Latin termination. Funny how that works, huh? And then if you look at IHS or IES, whatever that comes from, the older monogram that came from would be YES, or upsilon eta sigma, on the temple with the serpent to the sun. That is Bacchus, right? That YHS is significant because in that position, it acts as, or upsilon eta sigma, it acts as an HU. So what you end up having is HUES, hues, color, human. Well, why is that significant? Because HU, that YEHS or YES, that's why we say yes in affirmation. Yes, sir. Sir, Go look this up. Shin, resh in Hebrew, right? SRR. That's Lord. Sir. That's the capital Phoenicia, TYR. In that, it's pronounced sir, right? Or in Hebrew, that letter is pronounced, it's spelled TSUR, right?
Yep.
Sir, Lord, but it means rock, literally, because
Yep.
the Lord is the rock. Peter, Petra, the rock, petrified, get it? Pater, the father, the rock, the Lord of the household, the fathers, the pateres, the priests of Apollo. You see where I'm going with this? So going back to, this is important for Bacchus, and I'm just going to wrap it up because I know this is so complex. It's all going to be in my fourth book. It's in my previous book, but it's going to go really deep in my fourth book. Upsilon, eta, sigma, Hues. Well, if you look up the Greek word, eudor, Hudor. Well, guess what? That upsilon acts like a U in addition to a Y. They're interchangeable. So that then becomes hydor. Now, if you just switch up the O and the R, you get hydro, hydroplaning, hydroponics, hydropsy. These all hydra, you all get words named after water. And that's why if you look up Bach in German, B-A-C-H, you will get a stream, a rivulet.
Right.
Water. Because these gods are named after water, because water gives life. So it's named after life, which is given to us by the sun. So life is named after the sun, which is the mediator between us and our creator, whatever our creator is. And so the sun is named after God. And so that's how all the names of all these gods are structured. And you can prove it in multiple different languages. But in order to figure this stuff out, you need to know philology. But it's not just philology and etymology. You need, by understanding which letters and shit interchange in different languages, matter, because these priests are masters of this shit. Right. That's how they create these systems. They know the languages. They speak a bunch of different things. They know how they can disguise something in another language, knowing that the masses won't understand it.
Yeah.
And they can package and rebrand any lie they want. Now it's my turn to take a break. You guys hit it up, and I can't wait to watch the replay because I'm going to see what you guys said. But I got to go take a piss.
Chance, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I do, but I also kind of want Dylan to hear what I gotta say. I also have to take a piss. I already did, though. I already did.
I was gonna say, you need to go take.
No, I'm good. I'm good. This is I love seeing him get into the flow on this. And before he comes back, I'll just respond to it a little bit. There's another way to look at this, and this is not to negate his breakdown at all. I'm just looking at it from multiple possibilities. Because there is this amazing consistency in all these different parts of the world, and he would suggest, or he already did suggest, that maybe this is the remnants of something global or worldwide. But another way to look at it is that this is holographic, in the sense that the information that is condensing into language and condensing into traditions maybe comes from a spiritual plane. And not to make this all mystical and stuff, but just that we have this observable wave particle duality that at least we're told about. I guess I haven't done the two-slit experiment, but this is a commonly known thing, that when observed, the wave then becomes a particle. And this is like the polarity of yin and yang, or the positive, negative. These things, let's see, whenever you have something that exists spiritually and it does not have a physical body for it, then it's like a big infinite potential, and it could come through in a whole bunch of different ways until the idea is harnessed and put into words or embodied. So my point is that there could be a transcendent function to this information, like the idea of pi, transcendent numbers, 3.14, and repeating. And that at some point, by studying nature, we tap into this transcendent information that is part of the fractal of reality of life. So just to recap, Dylan, I was just pointing out that there could be an aspect to the information, to maybe summarize, because I kind of stumbled through it, but there could be an aspect to what you are explaining here that demonstrates a holographic nature to the information encoded in reality. That this is just an idea. Maybe the reason why these things are coming through in all parts of the world in a similar structure is because there's a, like pi, like the transcendental numbers themselves, there's a alchemical or archetypal transcendental function to these concepts, or even to language itself. Like how, where did language first even come from with humanity? This is like considering the question of the procession. It goes so far back, nobody can really observe what the origin was in the first place. And the obscure origins is a very interesting symbolic thing. It's like, we don't know our creator. We don't know our source. Just like our calendar system start us in the dark part of the year instead of at the vernal equinox, or our days are marked to begin at midnight. Well, when's midnight? It's kind of hard to tell when you're outside in the middle of the dark. Oh, you don't have there's no moon dial to know when midnight is, right? You know when the sun rises, and that's right. That's the beginning.
What do they call the hourglass with the sand?
Yeah,
I guess
you can figure that out.
Yeah, I guess so, but that's not in nature, right? Like there's no hourglass out in nature. You'd have to build that. And that's used. I mean, we have tools like that, but my point is just that we're surrounded with systems and information that have murky and obscured origins, all the way from our calendar system to where our food comes from. Most people don't even have a clue what the source of what it is they're taking in.
Yep.
Informationally, nutritionally, across the board. So
it's all man-made. So that's like where if people would understand why I do what I do, it's to show you that it's all man-made, and you're getting caught up in all man-made conceptual things, yet you're using them to justify your behavior of being immoral or causing war or whatever else, and you're teaching it to your kids and you don't even know what it is, and you're having your children read a fucking Bible that has obviously been corrupted by modern Jews to hide the fact, and Christians, but modern Jews specifically, because they're the ones that are translating it from an alleged document called the Septuagint, or the vice versa, whatever. But that Septuagint is not an original document, and they're saying it might be a copy of the Septuagint that Philo mentioned and that the evangelists mentioned. Well, what's the problem with that? When the evangelists are royal fucking stars and not real literal people, that's the fucking problem.
Right.
It's like saying, well, this document was written by, it's a copy of what Captain Kirk wrote on the Enterprise, motherfucker.
That's exactly like that.
And that's what they're doing. Like, and this says this is my land. It's mine. And you're dealing with a demonic fucking infestation of retardation. That's what it is. Let's call it what it is. It's fucking people who are too ignorant and too unlearned to know what they're even looking at, reading things, translating things, and getting involved in, going back to what I said in the original setup, a fictitious construct. They're going into Narnia. They're going into Middle Earth. They're going into fucking deep space. They're going into a place that's not real to argue about what's real within that construct.
It's kind of like how
man fucking made.
Modern
it's not
physicists,
God.
What modern physicists will tell you about the things that they think they know all came from them running computer simulation models.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, this comes into an important topic, kind of what we were chiming about last time, Chance, about your own electric field, your own body. We've talked about it here, taking care of your body. And that for me, one of the big senses, they talk about the five senses, right? You know, your taste, smell, touch, sight, and missing one here. But there's that sixth one that they don't talk about is intuition, it's your gut. And I think being, as you were just saying and mentioning just at this moment, Chance, about we don't even know what's in our own food. We don't even know what we're putting in our own body, and understanding what type of effects it's having on our intuition, right? As you said, all the shit out in the world, 99.9% of us, well, a lot of people don't want to even go into it, because once they start getting things mixed up, they go, oh my gosh, dude, I don't know what's real, right? That's what we're experiencing in the news now. People are experiencing when they go in rabbit holes, they don't know what the fuck to believe. So it's going, okay, well, you need to go back to your intuition. What is true? As this crow says, like, there's no lie in nature. Be in nature. You're part of that nature, but you have to be true to yourself. It's that intuition. And I feel that that's something, talking about electric fields, that we can even maybe dive into. And how
I'll
corrupt
get
that
into that. Intuition's hijacked too, though. Like, if we
things
want to
are.
demystify intuition, from my opinion
Yeah,
anyway, it's like paying a radical paying of attention so that you have actually seen what's really there, and then the correct idea will pop into your mind based on legitimate observation. So a lot of people's intuition these days is like Dylan said, it's
it's
like
corrupt.
they live in Narnia, so they're gonna have the idea of like, oh, this is just like that thing in
Right, right, right.
Narnia, you
Yo,
It
I
know.
know.
feels right, Chance. I feel this. This is
Sure.
all like
Yeah.
But
intuition. Yes, is true. You're right, but in the aggregate, it leads to emotionalism. And if you want to
That's
know
what
what
I'm
the
saying.
New World
Right.
Order religion of
Right.
one
Right.
is, it's fucking emotionalism. It's
Totally.
feminine. Oh my God, this feels right. And you know what? When it doesn't feel right anymore, I'll change my mind because I control everything. Then I decide what's right for me based on my whims.
Right. Well,
but
that's what I was saying
It's a
about.
intuition's
fucking
real
deal.
though. I want to defend it as
It
well
is,
because
Well,
it
like,
well,
is,
let
it
me
is,
say
but it leads to emotionalism, and there needs
like
to be, you need to harness it with
right. Well, this whole question
rationale
about
and
there's
logic.
some
connecting it to
mystery to it too. Like this morning I do like a group divination thing on live streams in the morning sometimes, and this is partially to help people just see what a flow state looks like, to teach them about I Ching, to teach them about tarot symbolism and all that. But like, why is it that I can feel that I'm going to draw the Ace of Wands, and then out of 72 cards I draw the Ace of Wands, and that happens like a lot. I call it the hot hands. Like, I get the hot hand and I know what is going to happen.
right.
So there's something there. And to get to what Pat was trying to talk about, because you brought up demon infestation, Dylan. I want to demystify that as well. Not that there might not be like actual entities out there in the ether that are a different form of life that can influence us. Like, that's beyond my pay grade to be able to tell you. However, in an electrical sense, an electric universe has been a really useful thing for me, and that even can tie into talking about like, well, maybe there was a point where Saturn was the sun, and that's a whole nother conversation, or the sun
Yeah, but
of a certain
if it
light.
were, you would have no evidence of that because
Right?
you would have to have
Can't go
accounts.
back.
Can't
Can't
go
go
back
back to
that
that.
far. And
Sure, but
there's no evidence existing for anybody to even postulate that. And that is a idea that's coming from somebody trying to reconcile why everything related to the word Saturn is encoding the sun,
well,
including the root Sator, which pertains to sowing. You know what I
I'll,
mean? So
yeah, I'll get to that too. Not to defend it, just to ponder it. And anyway, so in an electrical sense, your body having damage, having actual toxin buildup, having injury, things that block the intercommunication of all parts of yourself to other parts of yourself. This is where, like, because I actually do sound healing work in people's aura, if you will, in influencing their electrical field using tuning forks, and uh, I can intuit things in that process about their life and get it right with having no way that I should ever know that. I've never even met the person before. And it's not like sometimes it works, it's like it always works. And there's an anatomy to our electricity in that sense. And so, where there is these sort of vortexing blockages of your electrical field, where life force energy is bound up and constrained and constricted in a blockage, that becomes a type of demonic consciousness in and of itself, because it's your life force energy, but it's separated from its source, which is you and the whole. And so this is like a little
oh, you know
miniature
what, Chance? People
practical
don't
of the whole.
realize when you and I say things like demon, we gotta clarify that because we're so used to when I say demon, I'm not like talking about like some like mythological like winged creature. I'm like
Beelzebub.
D is in negated, like deconstruct from monos, one. That's Greek, monos.
Right.
So
Yeah, it's a way of
demon
saying a divided
is
man.
separated from one, or you've cut yourself off from God.
You guys are saying this.
Doesn't mean you have wings and you're like this bat-like gargoyle or whatever. No, I'm talking about
Exactly.
demonic infestation. Like, yeah, no, good call. Because I always, like for me, like I forget that this is going to be shown to people. So right now I'm just having a conversation with my boys. Probably said way too much shit I shouldn't say. Like, you know, because but
Well, that's
whatever.
why you got me here, to just clarify
Yeah,
that when we're talking about demons, we're
yeah.
talking about people that are so cut up and
Literally
divided
cutting
into.
themselves off from God through their own selfishness and greed and trying to gain a tactical advantage from me, like real Satanism, not
Yeah, but that
Abrahamic
also
Satanism.
comes from all the damage they took from this fucked up culture.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
like, I'm not saying that it excuses someone's free will choices, but when we take damage, when you think about how, like, if you have an injury and you have tension that is stuck in that injury like permanently until you do some kind of body work to release it. Well, what holds that tension in that place? Why are you stuck like this? It's electricity in your field that, like, it's your consciousness holding a pattern, and it's so stuck and set in that you don't even realize that you're holding yourself there. It's like you can't relax that. And so that energy that's holding a pattern in a distorted shape, that is demonic in a sense, and it's weakening you because it's taking away from your total level of attention and awareness that you can pay to yourself or the outside world, because a sliver of your attention is actually being spent on holding yourself in some weird distorted pattern. So
Hold
that
on,
applies.
just to physically, through firsthand experience, back up what you're saying about this electrical body and all that stuff. I personally had one of the most rare cases of peripheral neuropathy that the chiropractor that I went to is like amazing. He's a doctor. He's an amazing chiropractor. The rarest case he's
The
ever
only
seen in
doctor you
his
should
life.
trust is a chiropractor.
Right. And, you know, it's because I've spent, I don't know what it is because I can't afford to get the scans. I don't have health insurance, but it's probably from years of fucking hunchback writing, betatization, not lifting weights, not being in proper posture. And something has happened that cut my nerves off. And it started off like a little dime shaped thing on the bottom of my left heel of like numbness. And over the course of a day, it spread over my foot. Then, like the next day, it went up to my left knee. I'm telling you, I could walk in hot water and wouldn't know it. I could walk on a cold floor, couldn't feel anything in my left foot. Now I could feel pain. Everything was cut off. That then spread up through my body like a perfect electrical grid, cutting everything in half, including my dick and balls in terms of nerves. So you want to talk about electrical grid in your body. And then everything from there off, my skin was, I couldn't feel like hot and cold. I couldn't feel sensations. It was like having pins and needles without like it was like having just numb, but without the pins and needles. And then then what happened is I lost stability in my right side. And there was a time where I like couldn't even turn my phone on or off with one hand because my hand was so, I couldn't hold a cup of coffee on a saucer. It was like I couldn't write. This is in 2017. I was fucked up and it was like the scariest thing that's ever happened. But going back to that electrical thing, you can see how it was like a perfect grid that separated my body and divided everything perfectly. And chiropractor alleviated it. I still have it a little bit here and I still have like stability. I just can't afford to go to chiropractor as much as I should anymore. So it's like I got to sacrifice. But while that shit is happening and you're losing function of your body, my mind doesn't change. My soul doesn't change. I'm just looking at my vessel deteriorating. And
That may, yeah,
see
that may
that it is
be.
very electrical. It's very connected like that. And you can see that your brain, your cerebral spinal fluid, your spine is like a highway for your nerves. And it's called peripheral neuropathy because it's on the outside. It's not in the central nervous system. It's in the outside nervous system, going to your limbs. Anyways, just to back that up, I'm all about it.
To go even further, like into what might seem woo though, is that in my experience helping people with stuff, there's no injury or integrity issue with the body or the electric field that doesn't have a component in the psyche or in the emotional body. So like that's why there's an anatomy to it, and depending on where it's manifesting, I could explain to someone like, well, these are the emotions you struggle with, and you had this type of relationship with your father and it had the worst impact on your life at this age. And like you can get that stuff correct with the understanding of the anatomy of the electrical field, and like even stuff that's off. Some of your issues will actually be off balanced, even completely out of your body, because we all have like a 6 foot bubble space on average around our body. So anyway, I actually would recommend, Dylan, that you get a weighted tuning fork like this one.
I have them.
Okay, so yeah, use those kind of regularly. That can help not make like things not get worse. I had a similar issue with my left shoulder where it was numb, and also I couldn't raise it higher than here, and nothing was helping, and it was almost a year of this problem. And getting one of these, I was able to sort it out, and it didn't even take that long. I can't make promises for other people, but I mean, this is one way to approach it, is because vibrational therapy like this is electricity. A
Yeah, I
vibration.
put that on. I do it like on my third eye. I do it on my sternum. I do it on my elbows. I mean, I put it everywhere.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
shit.
Well, I got it. I got it because of Crow, because he had that lady on his
Same.
podcast. So.
And that's where I learned about it, was from, I think I'd heard her before, but when Crow had her on a couple years ago, I started diving into her work, and she's a big pioneer on it. Eileen. Yeah, she's a huge pioneer of this stuff. And I put her biofield anatomy to the test without even taking her courses or anything, just based on the information in her book. And it checks out, at least so far. And like, I'm doing this with people on the regular. But what I wanted to say too about why this is interesting to me is because I think life has this, fractality to it, so that our bodies and our electrical fields are similar to what you would see in other forms of life, and even possibly in the larger cosmos. If we look at, obviously, as you were saying, once you realize that you can't have an atmosphere next to a vacuum without some kind of container.
Even atmosphere begs the question that what we're seeing is a sphere, and it might not
that
be.
word. Yeah.
Go back to what you're saying about the royal stars. You could be looking at layers, like a layer cake, and so certain lights are in one thing going around, the next are in another thing going, and so on and so forth. So we don't know. That's why you don't want to beg the question. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and we don't live long enough to know if there's a huge difference at the rate that things do precession either.
Right.
We need bigger data. But so I had this conversation with Benjamin Balderson. He's really, really into the electric universe and looking at the sun and moon as a anode cathode galvanic system. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that was mind blowing that we realized, because I was explaining to him that there's cosmologies that would say that there's rings, and the South Pole isn't a South Pole, or Antarctica isn't a continent, it's an ice wall. And then beyond that, there's a larger amount of landmass beyond that. And so when we're talking about the planets or the luminaries as something other than a place where you could go land on, it would, to me, it would be interesting and would make sense on the fractal level, since those planets are associated with certain metals, that they could be an anode cathode too, which would mean potentially a sun and moon of a further out system. But they're closer than what we're told. And, this conversation requires maybe more explaining, and I plan to present this information as a possibility just to ponder with Benjamin on his Odin's Alchemy show pretty soon. But what I'm getting at here that was so interesting with Ben is that when I told him that maybe we could think about Mars and Venus as a sun and moon of another land, an extraterrestrial land, that's what they're talking about when they say they're going to Mars, that kind of thing. Venus even does the whole moon phases thing. If you observe it, it makes a crescent, it phases. And he has this Brown's gas machine, Aquacure, I think it's called.
Yeah. I was the one who got him hooked up with George Wiseman.
No shit. Okay, so he was showing me this thing, and it has these metal plates in it. I have them too. And he said, so confirm this for me. It creates like some kind of gunk when you use it?
Yes, it's the gunk that it's essentially when the plates are going together and creating, the Brown's gas.
So the process that is happening is electrolysis.
Yeah.
And Ben was saying that he thinks Ragnarok, the concept of Ragnarok, is actually describing electrolysis, where if this container that we're in, alchemical container that is our realm, is a battery of sorts, a galvanic cell, which would make sense in a fractal level, because like it would be a cell in the body of God, so to speak, and it would just be, infinite cells within cells within cells, that whenever the charge gets low in the system, and like you could possibly look at the fact that the sun looks more white and not yellow like it used to, as potential evidence for this, and this is all speculative, and I like to go into speculative, that when there's a hard charge put into the system, metaphorically, God plugs in his phone into the wall, you know, recharge and the whole thing, that what people have seen evidence for as a mud flood is actually the result of this matter that gets created during the electrolysis process. That's very mysterious. Like you can show it with your Brown's gas machine, that when you use it, it generates this sludge, and maybe the cell that we're in, or the land that we're in, even grows. Because when you go back to there's even Zoroastrian scripture where they talk about the gods giving the human beings more land. Like they needed more land for their cattle and their fields, and the gods did something and the land grew. And so this could be part of why we have stories of deluge. This could be why there appears to be evidence of mud flood, that what we're on isn't just a dead landmass or whatever, just dead rocks and dirt, that it is part of we're on top of something larger that's a living system, and that periodically maybe it also grows. And that idea of a world tree or cosmic tree could be like these ringlands that people conjecture exist are like rings of a tree, and it expands, and maybe maybe all that's possible. These are just things I like to think about once we go beyond, we live on a flying speck of speed.
I think that's what's so powerful about the flat earth experience, is once you know that, then the world becomes new again. You're like, oh,
and alive.
There's stuff that I can discover about this, because these people don't even know, the majority of them. Somebody has to know, because you have to know how to lie about it. Somebody has to know, maybe not everything, but a great deal.
Start looking for the egg in all the Mary, Jesus, and John the Baptist paintings.
Right. And for anybody who's like listening to this and about
doing this, there's a fucking egg somewhere.
Think about this: if somebody's gonna watch this, because I forget that we're not just three friends shooting the shit here.
Yeah.
People who see this, if whoever sees this, if this is like a concept that's new to you, and you're getting triggered, I just want you to do this. Answer this one question or demonstrate it. And if you can do that, I'll change everything. If you can't do that, it's time for you to shut the F up and start paying attention. And this is the question for you. How do you have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of containment? And I will take it a step further. Is there any scientific evidence of gas pressure existing without the necessary antecedent of containment? If you can't solve that one question with scientific evidence, I want you to just please not comment on anything ever again for the rest of your life until you can solve that, or until you have the humility to say, you know what, we breathe gas pressure, and without a container and without scientific evidence of gas pressure existing without containment, that shouldn't be possible. That means there is a container.
Right.
What is it? Is it a physical barrier? Is it an energetic barrier? Is it a elemental barrier, like a different, layer of something? I'm not here to tell you what the world is, but there are basic questions you can ask and not ever get a real answer to. And if you can't answer that, it's time for you to go sit in the corner and not contribute to the cacophony that's going on in this world, where people are actually trying to figure out what's going on, because we might not know, but we can tell we're being lied to. We're not doing this because we're assholes and we like to rock the boat. We're doing this because it helps everybody by trying to figure this shit out. It's not like we get off on being fucking flat earthers and all this other. There's no benefit.
I did not want to go there.
No,
I did not.
There's no benefit. There is no benefit. We're not saying we're flat earthers, but I'm a flat earther in the sense that
I went to Flattoberfest, bro.
Yeah,
I'm in.
Flat Earth is provable now. I stayed on the fence for a long time.
Show me the curvature.
Until I learned how the sextants work and how our ancestors navigated using the stars and triangulation. It's impossible on a curved surface. You need a flat plane to drive the angle. So if you can't answer that question, just go back. If there's any clear, like you're not sure what I just asked, just keep rewinding it and listen to that a couple of times, because many people are very high IQ, very intelligent, I mean, I'm talking nuclear physicists. I'm talking people who are like very exceptional in what they do, have come to this and gone, damn, everything was based on them assuming a radius value. And the only way they can calculate that radius value is to assume the horizon was a physical tangent point that they could draw a tangent to. And the horizon is apparent by definition. It doesn't exist. The sky and the earth, or the sky and the water, ocean, never meet. It's just a point where our vision fails because the angular resolution gets too small. And sometimes there's, natural phenomena that's occurring due to weather conditions and all that stuff that obscure things. But it's not a physical point. And so if you look at how Al-Biruni derived that, he used the horizon as a tangent point. You can't do that. It's called begging the question. It's assuming something that's not there. And this whole model, Earth is spinning? Great, you're going to need a radius value for that. How'd you get the radius? Oh, terrestrial refraction? That's why we can see that? Well, you're going to need a radius because your standard refraction, terrestrial refraction calculator assumes a radius value of 3,959 miles. That cannot be proven. 7/6R. You can't measure it. So all of us had to take this pill. Some of us just don't have the egos. Like for me, this shit came across my desk in like 2013, 2014. And I had the humility to say,
yeah,
fuck. And like a lot of us aren't ego invested into this shit. So it makes sense to us and we're willing to look at it. I researched it on my own for like 2 years before I even started talking about it in public, because I wanted to make sure this wasn't a psychological, operation to like humiliate people. And if you can do basic geometry, it's very simple. No matter where you are in this world, if you're on a globe with a radius value of 3,959 miles, every distance, any horizon you're looking at must be no further than 1.225 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. And I grew up in a place where I can see something 25 miles away, not below the curvature, that I shouldn't be able to see at the elevation that I'm the height of the observer. I shouldn't be able to see it. And I grew up looking at that like it was casual because I grew up on the ocean.
Well, what's interesting,
so for me, it made perfect sense.
Well, what's so funny is through my own experience, it was getting us so simple because as you said, you can tell people this information, people will not be able to process it or will choose not to hear it. And for me, it was as simple as just using my life experience of just going, I forgot who it was, but someone I was listening to said, just stand still, close your eyes. What do you feel? And I know we said about feelings, but truly, like, I know what it feels like to spin and feel nauseous. Like, I get nauseous when I'm spinning. And then someone says, okay, if you get nauseous spinning, but now the spin is so bigger than you and so fast that you don't feel it, does that intuitively, and I know we're talking about intuition, it could be kind of demystified here, but there's truth to it in the sense of going intuitively what feels right. And that was like, that makes no sense. I physically don't feel like I'm spinning. I don't have that sensation. The only time that ever feels like the world's spinning is when my internal psyche is off and when energetically I'm all over the place, right? You feel like, dude, like, my life is going, you know what I mean? Like, and people know that. And a lot of people, that's their normal. Like, I'm so scared. There's so much shit going on. Oh, fucking this thing's in the air that I can't see. Like, it's causing internally this basically cyclone. And that's why people feel like, yeah, it feels like the world's spinning. But I don't know, for me, it was just simple as going, stand still, put your feet in the grass, in the sand, wherever. Do you feel
But it's a relatively new phenomena, like
right.
Globe Earth, heliocentrism. This is a inversion of reality. And that's why it was so easy for me to understand, is because people like Mark Passio kind of primered me from that, even though he treated flat earthers like scumbags. And I'm very disappointed in him. And I don't pay any attention to him anymore because he was so rude about things. And but one thing that he taught us early on, like 2008, 2009, was that if there's one thing the dark occult does, is they always invert the truth. Don't put the truth at like a 45-degree angle, but it's like 180. So if they're telling you it's round, you know it's the exact opposite, because these people can't help themselves. They're like getting off on it. There's some sort of superstitious religious belief behind it where they have to invert truth.
They invert it, but they also sometimes will obscure it in that they describe it to you in a sense that could be metaphorically true, but without giving you the full details. And then they let all their little minions and middle managers extrapolate from there and tell you flat out lies. Because, like, to me, when we say that there's a dome or there's some sort of barrier to keep the gas pressure in, it is very similar to the concept of the edge of someone's bioplasma. There's a sheath to that, just like a cell has a cell membrane.
Yeah.
I can, with the tuning forks, I can hear when I hit the edge of someone's bubble space. I can measure it with dowsing rods, with the L rods. I can know that I have done something effective to rebalance someone's energy field in a certain part of their column, their what you would call chakras, with the dowsing rods, because before and after the process, it'll be different sizes. It'll shrink or grow. And so it is wild. Like the last guy I worked with, he had all kinds of unprocessed backlog of grief and sadness from a lifetime of not a lifetime, but many years of like drug addiction and fucking his life up. And so all of his physical lower centers, the solar plexus down, were like shrunk down super small, and he couldn't feel things. He was saying like, I don't feel anything. He doesn't feel pleasure in life and all that. But his heart, like above the heart, they were all about normal. And his heart chakra was huge. Like when I measured that space, it was like 8 or 9 feet off the body. And so after I did what I did, and then I measured with the dowsing rods again, it was kind of like deflating a balloon. I like let that energy come, like I punctured it in a sense, and even metaphorically.
Unclogging your drain or whatever.
Yeah, and I allowed it to like go back down to actually flow past that bottleneck down to the lower centers. And when I came back with the L rods, I mean, all I'm doing is holding these L-shaped copper rods with beads on the handle so that they can spin freely. And I very gently and carefully walk forward, and I just think of what center I'm measuring, or I say it out loud. And I assume that it's something to do with like the electricity in my body and through the ether connecting to his body's electricity, and they're communicating. It's really wild because I do this remotely. Like I think homeboy was in Canada or something, but at the end of the process, everything was in balance again. Everything that I measured was all the same size. So it was shaped correctly again, the sphere. And so my point in bringing this up is because like if the universe is a fractal, and this is something I want to talk to you about, Pat, is maybe in a future episode, energy vampirism, psychic vampirism, and like Kirlian photography, and ways that we actually can view and measure the plasma and the electricity of our energy field, that it's not just a woo-woo thing, and that there could be a reason why this system of the realm we're in, it looks like there's nothing there in terms of a dome, but it could be more of like a toroidal field effect that causes a barrier that's more energetic and less physical. But these are all interesting speculations to get into. I'm sure you're probably trying to steer us towards some sort of a landing pad right now, so I won't get into that.
The thing is like I said, I have a little bit of restriction only because I have a little one, but I just don't want to get us into a deep one. Then I'd be like, I gotta stop. But dude, I fucking love this, dude. If you guys want to do this again, I mean, there's so much I'm just taking in and processing. So
I'm waiting for Dylan to finish his book to come back on my show.
Yeah, dude.
I'm saving that. Got into the pocket. Got pocket in the pocket.
But no, I again, I very much appreciate your guys' time. I love where we were going with this. I love what we've covered. And for those who maybe are still getting all over the place with this, and again, read the books. It is worth your time. Whether or not you agree with what we're saying, that's the third installment. But
well, truth doesn't care about anybody's opinion.
Yeah,
and that's the ultimate point. Is like, it's not about us.
Right.
It's not about what we think.
You don't even have to defend the truth. It's self-evident. You don't own it, so why? It is what it is.
Instead of Shapiro's facts don't care about your feeling, it's more like, wow, technically the truth doesn't care about your feelings. So.
Oh man, Nashville, they can't help themselves. They're attracting all the fucking fake right freak shows.
Yeah, they're big with
Peterson's
phone
daughter
right?
just went there. I saw pictures of Peterson's daughter over there. It's
Oh,
like, I'm looking for a personal trainer. It's like, ugh,
it's
this
funny.
country is falling. It's not getting back up. We gotta just
Yeah.
learn how to thrive in the chaos. And
Well,
It's
you
like
know,
Owen Benjamin
sometimes,
says, there's fucking opportunity out the ass if you just leave the artificial reality behind and go do something.
dude,
yeah.
so true, man. And that's what I think is what
If
brings
he
me.
sees this, he's gonna be like, "Oh my God, Dylan Saccoccio is pure anti-Semitism, and he's throwing nickels at Jews."
Yeah, right.
Watch.
Yeah, but
He's
this,
I like Owen. He's a good guy.
but
I
what's
like that guy.
what is great is that we're taking the time to, as you said, Dylan, and what you've been saying, chances, trying to figure out what the fuck this place is, understanding the bigger pictures,
Yeah.
but also taking a minute to also, as we said earlier, not get caught up into it to the point where that's all your life is. Like, you're on your path, Dylan. Chance, you're on your path. I'm on my path. Like, at least for me, like the best thing was becoming a father, starting a family. Like, hands down, the best thing I ever did in my life. And I was going down, and it was down the same path as you, Dylan, in regards to the film and entertainment. And I still have those creative aspects of me, but I'm able to use them in different outlets now. I still use them in similar outlets, but like being with my son, using that creativity with him, and when we're playing with other kids that we meet and friends, it's quite the experience, and having this knowledge and not like bombarding people with it, but having that
Yeah.
confidence of going, I know things, I've learned things, and now I can, through again an alpha state, hopefully over time, being more in that alpha mindset of going, it's going to be okay, because we're
Creating authentically is how you could, like, that is the spiritual path. Creating from an
Yeah.
authentic center is connecting to the creator.
right.
And it is the fractal.
That's why Hollywood focus on artists so bad or so hard, is because the artists are the creators and these people can't create.
Yeah.
They're like
Scavengers.
They're like, yeah. And so they need to manipulate the artists and bribe them. And that's why I ultimately got so into this, is because it was like, I've seen so many people get chewed up and spit out by Hollywood. It never happened to me. I just didn't make it. I'm fucking left, right?
Right.
But the reality, nobody ever abused me. I was very lucky, but it's because I come from a strong family background, and like I've never had to, like, if I have to compromise who I am to attain my goals aren't shit anyway. So I need to go to the drawing board. That being said, a lot of people are not in that mindset. They've worked their whole life to get somewhere, and now you got like a Harvey Weinstein or like these Bryan Singer, Kevin Spacey types, like at the gates, like,
Yep.
you want this role? I'm not saying that Bryan Singer, Kevin Spacey, or Harvey Weinstein did that. I'm just saying they're like them.
Right.
They're like, I believe, it's my opinion that they're like that. I've been in some of their presences, and I got a very bad vibe. But at the same time, I think there is also a consensual agreement where people are afraid to say no. So it's not technically a non-consensual thing. It's just they don't want to get blackballed, so they give in and go along to get along, and then they don't get what they were promised, and they get chewed up and spit out, and they're fucking on drugs to try to numb what they have to look at in the mirror every day. And so it's just it's sad, but at the end of the day, it's like Chance said, like, art really, like, when I play music, when I'm in doing something creative, I lose track of everything, and it does feel like I'm connecting to God. And that's what I loved about acting and like the arts, and writing and creating. All that stuff is amazing, and it doesn't matter which medium you're using. It's like your way of tapping into God. So some people probably do that when they're fucking drawing up blueprints. They're just getting all this like divine inspiration when they're doing like imagine creating a church, right? And all these like cathedrals. There's an element of that in everything, and so what it's really about is being on your purpose, whatever that is. And generally, this goes back to trusting your instincts and your intuition, because what you are attracted to, what you like, are generally going to serve you well, unless you have an imbalance, unrealistic expectations of what you're looking for by pursuing those, right? Like if like you have like some weird goal attached to it, like I'm doing this so I can attain this rather than I'm doing this because I love this, then that might be a different story. But yeah, you need to be on your purpose and not pursuing all the other bullshit, because when you're on your purpose, you're going to be creating more than you consume. And it's not bad to consume things, But if you're only consuming, then why? Why? What's the point? Just so you can have like a feel good in your mind? Well, that's actually going to sidetrack you more in life than had you been like a Neanderthal who's just good at one thing and just does that like it's his purpose. And all of a sudden he creates this huge business for himself. And you're like, yeah, but he doesn't even know anything about like the sacred dialect or the vulgar tongue. You know what I mean? It's like, does that get you paid? Does that get you laid? No. Physical world action gets people attracted to you. Being good looking, being in shape, not being fat, not having estrogen bitch tits like bitch tits Billy Gates, you know? You need to be in good shape. You never get to let your hair down. You never get to rest. You get married and be like, oh, I'm married. I can just sit there, fucking drink beer and watch fucking football and my wife's still gonna love me. It don't work that way.
No.
It doesn't. It's like people have unrealistic expectations. You as a man need to stop listening to society, stop caring about what anyone thinks of you, and do your fucking thing. Be on your purpose, and people will gravitate towards you. Look at this. I wrote books. I'm talking to you guys because my work brought people into my life. Not vice versa. I wasn't fucking sliding into your DMs. No, my work brought quality people in my life. That's what people need to do. And most people are afraid to do that.
And it lets you be choosy, Dylan. It lets you actually make choices. And like most people are looking at what they've got as like, well, I have to settle because it's the best that could ever come my way. Not realizing and that's actually what's
I'm guilty of that. I am guilty of that.
And that's actually what leads you to want to self-sabotage and do all kinds of stupid stuff that hurts yourself because you're already looking at life like I'm settling.
Right.
And as soon as you like life will respect the boundaries that you set, like what you experience and what comes to you will 100% reflect the level of boundaries and what you decide you want. Like I say it all the time. I'll say it again and again, and I'm going to get it made on a t-shirt at some point. If it's not hell yes, it's hell fucking no. And you can actually live your life that way and watch what happens when you set those type of boundaries between yourself and everything. Absolutely. If it's not 100% full body hell yes, then fuck off and see how that works out.
Well, as Rollo Tomasi wrote in The Rational Male, which every man should read, genuine desire is not negotiated. It's either there and the medium is the message. If you're getting like this girl I was seeing, she kind of flaked on me the other day, gone. That's not genuine desire. That is the message. Even if they come back and say, oh, I didn't mean to do it like that. No, but that's the message. Because if it was genuine desire, you wouldn't have done that. You fucking drive across the country to be with me. You would do, you know what I mean? That's it. You get in life what you put up with. You get what you literally tolerate. And right now, look around us. Our countrymen are feminine, out of shape, unhealthy, disgusting freaks that tolerate evil to run amok.
Right.
So that is what this environment is going to bring in. Totally. And we can't stop it, but we can say, this is what's happening, and this is what I need to do to avoid exposure to it and create my own successful, healthy environment that other people will want to be around, rather than sit here and bitch and moan about how the world's collapsing. And the world's going to be fine. It's just human beings that are trash, right? And until we change our behavior, it's going to continue on this trajectory and these cycles. And we just got to be like, hey, this is the weather. It was snowing today. I can't sit here and say I'm upset that winter is coming.
Right.
I can't sit and go, you know, if I just like maybe if I'm a little better, if I be a good boy, will you bring back summer?
Right.
Not till after winter, bitch. Okay? Right. Live it. Embrace that motherfucking cold. Get it in your soul. Because that's, as a man, you need to thrive in the external environment and just fucking say, I don't care what the circumstances are. I'm going to fucking win. I'm going to do something worthwhile because I only have so many fucking days. I'm at the point now where I'm flying by the seat of my pants. I fucking woke up today. I fucking won the lottery because I fucking woke up and saw the sun.
Good.
I might not wake up tomorrow. And I'm okay with that because I'm so grateful for every day that I get to be here. That's like where you got to be.
It's the gratitude that through and through. That's the most important thing, man, because we can get so caught up in the mundane and all the nonsense of life. But when you don't, and you said this last time on our podcast, Chance, and I even clipped it for Instagram, just talking about like just going outside and just having a different perspective of going like, it's a beautiful day out, even if no matter how many clouds are out there. Like I think that's
also get sun on your balls.
Dude,
it's really good for you.
Yeah. Little do we know that Chance actually has his balls out right now, and
he's literally
no
bottom half. He's like butt naked.
I do pantsless podcasts all the time, but not today.
But they just say last time it was a beer and pantless. This time it's jeans and turmeric.
That's correct.
Yeah, dude. That's awesome. Well, dude, I want to wrap us up. Thank you guys so much for your time. I highly anticipated this one, and it definitely didn't disappoint. I hope you guys want to do this again because there's so much.
Yeah, anytime you guys, I love talking to you guys. So like we always have fun. So even if you guys want to make this like a regular thing where we get together like once a month or whatever,
yeah,
I'm in.
Dude, I love it. And yeah, I mean, I just want to wrap us up here with whatever else you guys were doing. I know we talked about your book, but maybe Chance, if you want to start, if there's anything you want people to know what you're doing or where to find you, because you guys have a wealth of information, and obviously
InnerVersePodcast.com. Getting out there on a lot more shows like yours. Happy to do it. So if you're hearing this and you're a podcast host, hit me up. I'm probably willing, and I enjoy it. I like to switch to the guest seat. But from my website, InnerVersePodcast.com, you'll find links to every other place where the content lives. I've got the main show. I've got a weekly live show, Vibe Rant. That's pretty fun. Be careful Googling that. I found out that apparently there's like some gay dudes from Texas that have a show called Vibrant also. Not the same. It's not the same show.
But why is the host's name Chance Garton? Garton.
Oh, stop. And I do some morning every 5 to 7 days. I'll do like a morning divinatory video where I just kind of try to tap into the flow state of where we're at in the universe and give some inspiration to the tribe that's watching about spiritual advice, I guess you could call it. Make with that what you will, but people seem to enjoy it, and I have a lot of fun doing those. And it seems to generate synchronicity. So those are the three things, and watch out for Dylan's next book. I want to say that's going to be a banger, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing your guys' podcast on that one before.
Oh, wait, and I do sound healing. In case people didn't know, you can email me for that, chance@innerversepodcast.com, or one-on-one divination sessions. Those can also be a really great way to help you see what you really think and feel about stuff in your life, and not lie to yourself anymore, and get make an investment in having a real conversation with me, and see if that gives you the fuel to actually make some changes. Because you put some money down, you're not going to want to waste that money, and we talk about what's real. I think that it can inspire some super good healthy changes, and I'll tell you about the boundaries you need to hold, because I've been there, and that's where all the treasure is at, is holding your own light and not letting the phages eat it, as Dylan would call them.
I love it.
It's the ultimate green language. It satisfies so many different archetypes, and yet it can't be reported for hate speech because it's an actual thing.
But we're about
high IQ, baby. I'm about 120 pages deep, a little bit more, because I still got to transfer some. Because I write in person or on paper, and then I transfer it to the notes. So I'm working as much as I can to get the fourth book of Spirit Whirled, that's WHIRLED, done by the end of this year, at least the first draft, but it might not happen. I'm also like 100 pages deep into a book called Get Mad or Get Realistic, because I noticed that that's like my tagline for everything nowadays. It's like you can look at the world and you can get mad at it, or you can get realistic and say, how do I need to change my behavior and work on myself to thrive in it? And it's kind of like a man's guide to turning it all around. And I basically zeroed out over the last couple of years, and was in a really toxic relationship that wasn't a real relationship. I just believed that it was, because I was delusional, because I believed in all this garbage like soulmates and like the twin flames and all that stuff. And like You know, when you really start examining the world, and that's what's so important about all the work we're doing, just in different layers and in different areas, is I don't think people take that saying, Crow's tagline, far enough. That belief is the enemy of knowing. And it's like, how many things do you believe? Are you willing to sit here and be realistic about, say, I believe that that is what this is, not I know what that is. And by believing, you admit that you don't know. And so sometimes the real like curse of this world, in my opinion, going back to how intuition can lead you astray, sometimes things happen in such synchronistic ways where it feels like divinity is guiding it. It feels like this, you know, and that's my problem, is I was like a simp to synchromysticism, or like, you know, like I felt like, oh man, God wants me to do this, so I'm going to do this. God brought this woman into my life, I need to serve her. You know, this type of like, I like this, it's more gynocentric, new world phage order programming to get you to siphon off your masculinity and castrate yourself and buy into their bullshit, while you're actually sabotaging what you are. Is because the more you cater to that, the more the woman actually doesn't want to be with you, because you're not that leader alpha male that she really biologically wants, even if her mind doesn't realize that, because the world tells her to want something else. You can't undo the evolutionary traits that made us what we are. And so for me, the hardest thing was realizing that even though I was unplugged in so many other ways, I was still plugged into all these other lies. So I had to plug myself out of it. I had to deal with like that fucking withdrawal and the psychological kind of torment that came from that. And then what I did to start like working out and turning it around. So I'm just going to basically include me. It's like not a book on how to succeed, how to make money, how to do it. It's just a book on, if you're in a rut in life and you don't know where to begin, how you can turn it around and get shit going to the right direction. And doesn't matter. You don't have to wait for perfection. If you can just turn it around, everything else will take care of itself, because it's the mind that starts dominating the weak nature of the body that always seeks comfort. And your mind needs to be able to override that and say, no, you get your ass in the gym today. And because I don't like your attitude, you're going to go twice as hard, do twice as many, whatever you got to do to punish yourself in a weird way. Sometimes you need to crack that whip.
It's not even punishing though, because once you flip the couch around, it actually feels good to feel good.
Yeah.
So it's really just the mental hurdle of the belief that it sucks to do the hard work. And then once actually, when you reprogram or rewire your brain and your body, that feeling good feels good, then you actually are attracted to go do the stuff. Dude. Like I'm excited. I'm upset if I can't get to the gym, not because I have to go. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't skip leg day today. Put it that way.
Well, I could speak for at least myself. When the gyms here, you need certain passports. So I find creative ways with my son to do it, which is, again, that's the beauty of, we were talking about creativity, is like, all right, fine, you can't do that. Well, I'm going to go put my kid on a boogie board and do sprints on the beach, and he's having fun, and I'm, hauling ass, you know what I mean? Or I'm going to, do whatever I can do to get creative with it. It's something for me personally, it's like I can't literally go to the gym without it turning into, affidavits and things like that. And it's going, well, I'm on a beach, man. So I have nature around me, right? I can go pick up logs. I'll go pick up logs, and guess what? My son's watching and he's getting excited. He wants to go do those things. My son's not even 2 years old and he's already learning how to surf. He can barely swim. It's like he's learning how to swim in the ocean, and he just turned 2. And that's, for me, looking like that's the pride and honor I have. It's like, okay, I don't have the same routine that I once had, where, when I was working in the gym, dude, I was, deadlifting 435 for 3 or 5. You know what I mean? Not that that's a lot for some people, but for someone like myself, like, I was prime, and now it's just a different prime. It's tapping more into creativity, but it's like, yeah, I don't have as many joint issues. Yeah, maybe I'm not lifting as heavy, but I'm getting creative with how I lift weights to make it feel and create that sense of heaviness, right? And at the same time, I'm teaching my son that same mindset, right? Like he's, and it's fun to watch. And, when we're around other people and they're like, dude, your kid can do certain shit. I'm like, yeah, he can, because I'm not going to limit him. Like, obviously as a parent, right? You have to like pump the brakes on certain things, but it's also allowing him to be like, let me explore that. Let me get better with it. And then also now having a parent who's in that same mindset. I mean, not to toot my own horn, but we definitely get the people observing how we do things and going, that's incredible. One, that he can do that. And two, you're doing it with him. And as we were saying earlier about being overweight, it's like you see so many parents who just can't physically do it because they've let themselves go. And it's like, don't be that person. Like you said, wake up, be grateful for the sun, be grateful for family, be grateful for just even who you are, right? And then being able to go, I'm not feeling it today. Well, guess what? You're going to go a little harder. You're going to get him to, you know what I mean? Like at least mine, it's like, you're going to do 4 more sprints. He's going to love it and you're going to be winded, but it's like walking away going like, I feel good. At least my experience, he's happy. And at the end of the day, we got to experience it together. Or in your situations, right? It's like, I got to experience for myself. And then that energy gets emitted too when you're talking to meeting a woman, right? It being like, that's the energy you're putting out of that confidence, that true confidence, not the ego trying to manipulate,
Yeah, you're just being real. And like going back to what you just said, you could have got mad at the vaccine passport, but you got realistic.
Right.
Got realistic. I'm not going to deal with that. So I got to find another route. And that's what, it's like that Bruce Lee saying, be like water.
Yeah.
You as a man have to say, you know what, this is fucked up, but I've got to work with it and I got to find another way around it or whatever. Right. And you can spend your whole life. That's why I'm not big on the law stuff. I like teaching it just to show people what they're getting into and how it works. But I don't think you should interact with it. I mean, if you can, and that's your calling and you get off on that, do it. But if you're feeling like I don't want to associate with that, you just got to find a way to go around it and minimize your exposure to shit, because the world, the further I look back in history, the more I see is like nothing's changed in thousands of years, guys. We're in this situation today. It's just the same situation as our ancestors, dressed up a little bit differently.
Right.
And goes back to what Chance was saying, is like, are we destined for this? Is this a pattern? Like, are all these languages and symbolism like just something that expresses itself? Like, like you have the seed and the seed is already like programmed to know what to grow into. And no matter where you plant that seed, it's going to have that effect. You know what I mean? Like, how does a calf know, like the second it comes out of that freaking mama cow, it's like going straight for the teat. It knows where everything is. Like, there is a program in all life. That's unquestionable. So how does it work? I don't know. I don't make claims to know, but you just need to use your senses and your intuition and everything else to figure out what's going on around you and act appropriately.
Yeah.
And you can get pissed off or you can get realistic. Get mad or get realistic. And the realistic person is going to do a lot better, because it's like, you know what? I need to go to the gym because I can't miss this day. I can't lose these games. Whatever, I need to put in this work because I need to grow my business. I need to finish this book. I need to make this podcast. I need to, work with this client. I got to help people. I got to do that. Whatever it is, you just got to fucking do it, no matter what you feel like sometimes. And that's part of the thing that the body will try to make you not do, because I just want to lay on the couch. I don't want to, just watch ice cream or eat ice cream and watch like whatever people watch these days. I haven't had TV in like so long. I'm like way out of pop culture.
It's so true, man. But I'm gonna have to wrap us, guys.
I guess.
But this is
got to run too.
Yeah, but thank you so much for your time, guys. Thank you for everyone who's tuned in and stayed with us. Like I said, I'm looking forward to doing this again. And but until then, everyone, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.